Bird Bowl.
Get us started. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the Palmer Town Council meeting. It is Monday, February 9th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. I will call this meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have quite a full room, and we have a couple of things on the agenda that we need to shift around due to some timing. I am going to start with the swearing in of police officers, so I invite Chief Burns and our town clerk.
So, gentlemen, if you come on up here. These two gentlemen before you, they are Ethan Roberts, Baltazar Gonzalez, and Mahir Safari. These gentlemen, Ethan Roberts is a 2019 graduate of Pathfinder Technical High School. He served in the United States Army as a forward observer for 3 years. He received an Army Commendation Medal, an Achievement Medal, a Good Conduct Medal, and a Combat Action Badge over in Syria. He's graduated from the Municipal Police Training Council Police Academy on January 30th of this year. So he is currently working right now. He's in the field training program. This young gentleman on the end here is Baltazar Gonzalez. He's earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the American International College in 22. He's a youth coach in mixed martial arts and presently attending the Springfield Police Academy, being sponsored by the Palmer Police Department. He will be graduating in April of this year. And Mahir Safari, he's a 2017 graduate of Springfield Central High School. He has considerable employment in the Armed Transport Services. He's experienced in de-escalation and non-lethal engagement tactics. He's an accomplished MMA fighter. He recently earned a reality fighting welterweight title in January of this year. And he is enrolled in the 6th Holyoke Police Academy, and he will be graduating in August of this year. So, gentlemen, the clerk will now swear you in.
You're going to step forward and raise your right hand, and you're going to repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Baltazar Gonzalez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith, ally, and allegiance
to the town of Palmer,
to the town of Palmer,
and will support the Constitution
and will support the Constitution
thereof and the Constitution of the United States,
thereof and the Constitution of the United States,
that you will obey the lawful orders of all your superior officers,
that I will obey the lawful orders of all my superior officers,
and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all duties
incumbent upon you
incumbent upon you
as police officers,
as police officers,
according to the best of your skills and ability,
according to the best of your skills and abilities,
to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
to the rules and regulations of the
and the
Constitution
laws of the Commonwealth
and the laws of the Commonwealth
and the United States.
and the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I know that there's a lot of family and members of the police department.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations and stay safe. If you guys are interested in taking pictures with your, newly sworn in officers, we welcome you to the entryway over the side over here, and we'll give you guys a couple of minutes to shift out. But thank you guys all for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know which one, I forget.
Okay, good.
So we'll have to take a look at that because
That is our
that's our
signal.
note we know.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you.
Yeah. They need it to read.
MMA fighters.
I just sent it
Okay,
out to them.
so typically, the next thing on the agenda is our visitors' comments. But we do, as I mentioned earlier, have a timing with a public hearing. So the public hearing starts at 6:35, which is right now. So we are going to take the public hearing, and then we're going to go back to visitors' comment. And the public hearing should only take a couple of minutes. So if Heidi, if you guys want to come up, we have a public hearing for a zoning amendment temporary moratorium on battery energy storage systems.
Hi there. So this is just a pause on all applications for standalone battery energy storage systems until March 1st of 2026, or May 1st, sorry, of 2026.
Okay, so I will open the public hearing at 6:36. And essentially, this is now the time for anybody in the audience who has come to speak on this temporary moratorium on battery energy storage systems to come speak now.
No one to speak. Forever hold your peace.
I have one thing to say.
Okay?
If you just say there's solar farms, like you're saying, moratorium on solar farms.
No.
Standalone battery energy storage systems, so sometimes they're accessory to a solar farm, but recently in Massachusetts, because of some state incentives, we were seeing more interest in just the lithium ion battery storage as a land use.
Okay, seeing no other public comment, I will close this public hearing at 6:37. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go back up to visitors' comments, and this is for anything that is not currently on the agenda. If you do have a visitor's comment, we ask you to come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. So anybody? You have a group right here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jillian Crozetier. I live at 136 State Street, Palmer, Massachusetts. I'm a mother, a coach, and a proud member of the Palmer Soccer Association. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with all of you tonight. I'm here to talk about something that matters deeply to our families, our players, and our community, the condition of our soccer fields, and the need to improve and properly maintain them. Palmer Soccer serves children ranging from as young as 2 years of age all the way through their teenage years and feed into the high schools. For many of these kids, this is their first experience being a part of the team. Soccer teaches them teamwork, communication, responsibility, and perseverance. It promotes pro-social skills, confidence, and a sense of belonging, and it brings families together to strengthen our community. But in order for these benefits to truly take root, our players need a safe and supportive place and an environment, and that starts on the fields that they play on. Right now, our field conditions are a challenge. Uneven surfaces, poor drainage, and general wear and tear that affect the quality of play. They also affect the quality of the player's safety, accessibility, and pride. As a parent and a coach, it's hard to watch these kids navigate fields that don't reflect the efforts, commitment, and the hard work that they bring every week to their teams. Our players deserve a field that they can be proud of, a field that is safe and accessible for all ages and abilities, a field that encourages kids to show up excited, confident, and ready to play. And when our teams represent Palmer against other towns, we want them to feel proud. Not just of their skills, but a place they call home. Our fields are often the first thing the impressions of visitors get. They should reflect our values and what we stand for and care for our children, the investment of our future, and the pride in our community. Improving and maintaining these fields isn't just about soccer. It's about supporting youth development, encouraging healthy activity, and showing our kids that they matter. I'm asking you to consider the long-term impact of this investment will have not only on today's players, but future generations of Palmer families. Thank you for your time and your consideration and for supporting our kids in our community.
Well, I got
you.
a question, please.
Yes.
What's wrong? You said drainage. Is there puddles in the field and potholes?
So Lavalette Field, typically the kids play at Lavalette Field,
Yeah.
and we have over 250 kids that play in the spring and the summer. The field is covered in rocks underneath. And so it's gravel fields underneath. So they don't drain properly, and I am actually one of the soccer coordinators. I go out there before the fields every day and I sweep off the water because it's not safe for the kids. It's also covered in rocks, it doesn't drain properly, it's uneven, and we have this one field to utilize. We've talked about alternatives, it just hasn't come to fruition.
Is the field behind Pathfinder still in use by Pathfinder?
It's funny you should mention that. My colleagues will actually be mentioning that. There's a number of fields in Palmer that are underutilized and not being utilized for Palmer soccer. They're actually we're banned from using them, or we're not allowed to use them because they're prioritized for other things, despite the fact that they're available when we need them for the soccer season.
What do you think, it needs to be all loomed or loamed? I was
You would
brought
have to
up by a
scrape
foreman.
off probably 4 to 5 inches of gravel underneath. But the problem with doing that, we would love for Lavalette to be reorganized, but then where would we play for the seasons? Because it would take an excessive amount of time, money that we don't have. We need accessibility for our 255 players. Palmer Soccer has become a soccer town. Like, you know, every single weekend, if you go to that field, you're going to see families, everybody organized, playing. It's not something we're proud of. You know, we're picking off rocks at every practice and trying to throw off 50, 60 rocks so our little kids that are 2 and 3 aren't falling on the ground. So this has been an ongoing issue.
What do you think should be done then? What, get another field or?
I would love for us to be able to utilize other fields, and again, my peers will be talking about, there are alternative fields. We're not being allowed to having accessibility to them.
By whom?
There's the high school, the Palmer Palmer athletics director. They organize things. The Legion Field is, I think, only utilized for basketball. There's a number of other fields that we are just not allowed to access because they're used for other sports, and not even during the season that we're talking about.
You know, years ago, I coached the Munson and Palmer youth because they were all going to play baseball, and so we used the field, I think, behind Pathfinder in the woods back there.
There's a number of fields. They just have to be maintained, and we have to have access to them. And the problem is, it's just not happening. And that's one of the reasons we're coming forth to talk to the town council, is we need accessibility. We are fitting 250 kids on a small field. It doesn't have any time to rest. It doesn't have any time to recover. And if we don't have that field, we don't have access to other fields.
That's just summer league?
No, we're talking spring and fall. Palmer Soccer.
Yeah, we play all
Oh,
year.
for the school?
Yeah, it wasn't as much
rec.
of a problem.
Sorry.
It wasn't as much of a problem until we put in the walking path around the field. So we used to have 3 separate fields for the travel age players, which are grade 2 and up. And then we also have kids from age 2 playing up to there also. And since we put in the walking path, it cut down the number of fields we could have because we lost a substantial part of the field to the walking path. And so it's come with some problems because we used to be able to shift the fields around to let parts recover. And now that just isn't happening because there isn't a lot of options for it. Anytime we have tried talking with some people, we get a lot of resistance to us trying to use anything else. They tell us use Water Street. Water Street's underwater. That's why it's called Water Street.
And there's a safety issue as well, is there?
That's
Right.
Developmental fields that you're talking about for youth.
And
So
when I
I
tell
think
you,
it's important,
we
yeah.
have kids as young as 2, and our town is one of the few towns that actually does Pee Wee soccer. So they come from everywhere else to play Pee Wee soccer and to advance to rec, to travel, to the high school team. So this isn't just like a stopping ground where these kids are just stopping at this age. Like, we're really trying to advance the whole program so that when they go to high school, and again, my my peers are going to be discussing this, but this has been an ongoing issue and we haven't been heard very well.
Do they have to pay for attending this, or?
So they do, but one thing we can say about Palmer Soccer is with our fundraisers and the amount of cash we have, we don't raise our prices very often, and Karen, who's the president, can speak to that.
We haven't raised our prices since before COVID because we understand that the population in Palmer has changed. I also work at the school, so I see the diversity that's now in our school. I know that economically, there's many children who just can't afford to it. We offer scholarships for people. We have one child playing under a scholarship this season. All they have to do is write the board a letter, talk about their situation, and agree to participate in the fundraiser, and try and sell some raffle calendars. But we haven't raised our rates at all because Belchertown, some of these towns around us, it's almost $200 a season to play.
Yeah.
Who can afford that? Like even our oldest groups, they pay $90. It's $90 or $95, and a $25 jersey. They can use the jersey season after season. Like, we're just trying to make soccer accessible.
Yeah. It's an inexpensive sport.
It is, but it isn't. You know,
Could you say on the TV where to donate or what's your organization?
Carl, I think we should. I love the conversation, but I do think that we should let them finish their everything
thought
that
they
they've
were done.
prepared
No,
for the
but-
comments,
Sorry.
and then we can,
Question and answer session, yeah.
all right.
Sorry about that.
No.
Okay. She told me to go first. All right. Yeah, mine kind of segues into hers. So, good evening. My name is Karen Perry. I live at 726 River Street. I'm here representing Palmer Soccer, obviously. I'm also a Palmer parent. I'm a teacher at Old Mill Pond, and I'm the president of Palmer Soccer. So, I have 2 children who grew up playing with Palmer Soccer. They both developed not only a love of the game, but a passion for sports and teamwork. They play multiple sports, they love it. Both went on to play for Palmer High School. One's currently a freshman, and the other is continuing her soccer career at Western New England University. I share that because it reflects exactly what the Palmer Soccer Association does for our community. I'm here tonight to explain why continued access to Lavalette Field is essential for our program and why supporting youth soccer is truly an investment in Palmer's students, schools, and our community as a whole. The Palmer Soccer Association is more than just a recreation program. We serve hundreds of children in our town. From early elementary school through middle school, for many of these players, the Palmer Soccer is their first experience, like Jill said. They learn teamwork, discipline, perseverance, accountability, all skills that extend far beyond the soccer pitch. Just as importantly, Palmer Soccer is a feeder program for our high school, right? We have students that end up going to Palmer and Pathfinder both. The students you see competing in high school, they're not just starting to develop when they show up in 9th grade for that tryout, right? They began years earlier on Lavalette Field building confidence, fundamentals, and a love for the game. So when our athletes reach the high school level, they already know how to train, they know how to listen to coaches, and they know how to be good teammates. That preparation strengthens school teams, helps reduce injury risk, and allows Palmer to take pride in our student athletes. And Palmer has a lot of pride in our student athletes. About 6 to 8% of high school athletes continue to play sports in college, yet Palmer residents are currently playing in schools like Fairfield, Sacred Heart, Emmanuel, Western New England, St. Joseph's, and AIC, just to name a few. What all these student athletes had in common was that they all started playing soccer with Palmer Soccer when they were little. Consistent access to Lavalette Field allows us to run practices efficiently, host games that bring families together, and maintain a structured schedule that works for working parents. Over the past 2 seasons, the Palmer Soccer Association has had 25 teams each season, which is approximately 225 players using Lavalette Monday through Saturday. It is mass chaos if you go some days. It's amazing and awesome at the same time. At the same time, Palmer High School JV soccer teams, typically consisting of 12 to 16 players each, have used Lavalette as their home field for games. When those games occur, several recreation teams are displaced and unable to practice. This can happen 8 to 10 times a season, disrupting development for a large number of younger players. It's also important to note that PHS teams have access to both Legion Field and Duke Field, but still end up playing at Lavalette. For this reason, we're respectfully asking the town of Palmer to consider the JV home field from Lavalette to Duke Field. I don't know if that's you guys or the high school, but we figured we'd start with you guys. Without reliable field access, our program struggles not just logistically, but developmentally. Fewer practices mean less skill growth. Ongoing uncertainty makes it harder for families to commit. Ultimately, fewer students arrive at the high school level prepared to represent Palmer. Youth sports strengthens the broader community. On any given afternoon or weekend at Lavalette, you will see parents volunteering, siblings cheering, and neighbors gathering to support their athletes. These are the moments that build connection, pride, and a strong sense of community here in Palmer. We're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking for recognition of the role that we play and support for our youth, school athletics, and community engagement. By continuing to support Palmer's use of Lavalette Field, you're supporting Palmer students today and strengthening Palmer's high school programs for the future. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your support of Palmer youth.
Good evening. My name is Christine Camacho, and I currently live at 65 St. John Street. I am a parent of 2 children in town. My son has played soccer for Palmer Soccer for the past 6 years. I currently serve as the Registrar and Director of Fundraising for the Palmer Soccer Association. I'm here tonight to talk about the issue of parking lot safety and pedestrian safety at La Roulette Field. First, I want to start by thanking town officials for placing a speed limit sign in the parking lot during our fall soccer season. This is an important first step in recognizing the importance of maintaining a low rate of speed when entering and exiting the parking lot. However, even with the posted speed limit, drivers continue to enter and exit the parking lot at speeds in excess of the posted limit. With 225 players and their families entering and exiting the field on a weekly basis, this continues to be a safety risk for children. We would like to ask the town to consider installing a speed bump at the entrance to the parking lot that would require drivers to slow down as they approach the entrance to the parking lot and field. Additionally, the current overflow parking for La Roulette Field is the Palmer Historical and Cultural Center. This lot is used most nights during the week and on Saturdays during games. Currently, there is no crosswalk that leads directly across the street from the Historical and Cultural Center to the field. Families with young children often cross without a crosswalk to safely get them to the field because walking down to either of the closest crosswalks is cumbersome with a young child and soccer gear in tow. We would appreciate it if the town would consider adding a crosswalk leading directly from the Historical and Cultural Center to Belander Street to allow families with young children easier access to the field. In closing, installing a speed bump and crosswalk is a small change that can make a significant difference in the safety of our children. It promotes slower driving, clearer pedestrian pathways, and a safer experience for everyone. I strongly encourage you to consider this request to improve safety in this area. Thank you for your time and consideration and for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Carl, I know you had some questions about donating. One of the things that Palmer does, we do a lot of sponsorship. Christine's in charge of them, but we also sell calendar, raffle tickets, and everything. We do a lot of things. And one of the things that we failed to mention is we get permits for this field every single year. And even with those permits, we get superseded by other people because they say that it's a necessity. Even though we've already requested it, it should be ours. So we've kind of left that part out, but it's a...
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an important part not to leave out.
We only have 3 minutes, so we were trying to get everything in, but I think that's the big thing is we pull permits every single year. We pull them before anybody else can, and then we still get that call saying, hey, JV's coming, hey, this is coming, hey, that's coming, and it disrupts it. And we as coaches and on the board are doing our best to kind of navigate and pivot so that we're not disrupting these kids, but we also have to remember Palmer's a working town. Palmer has a lot of working parents. They can't pivot as much as we can, and some of us are coming from an hour away to coach these kiddos, and some of us are we see them in the community, we see them everywhere. We're trying to make it so that they have consistency. Some of these kids, this is the most consistency they have. So I think that's where the difficulty is we're not being heard when we are making those comments to other people, which is why we're bringing it to the board's attention, or the council's attention.
No, I appreciate that. And what all of you guys do is really important for the community, and everything that you've mentioned tonight is, we really want to make sure that you've been heard. And I think we haven't been, directly approached by you folks before, but I think we have known.
We've had this conversation
Right.
over the years. Right.
That there have been some maybe issues with the quality of the field. I think that's something we've been aware of. And
It all started back when we were having the circuses come to town and the spikes were left in the field and things like that. So,
and I know that Brad has been, since
Right.
we've brought Brad on, it has been part of the conversation about having an inventory of our fields and making sure that we're maximizing, the use of all of our fields, and making sure that we are evaluating what certain fields are being used for. Because I think of, and I'm sure everybody else is thinking, like, Burley Park is probably an underutilized space. The baseball areas have been very well maintained, but there's other parts of Burley Park that...
The other location in Burley, unfortunately, it's a floodplain, so it floods, and that prevents us. So that's one of the biggest issues is just Palmer has now become a soccer town, 225 kids, and that's every season consistently for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Thank you. So when we have that many kids and we're being pushed into one of the smallest fields, we can't even give that field time to recoup.
And we have used Burley in the past, we've used Water Street, we have used a number of different fields. The problem lies too, well, this mom has one who's 2 years old playing on the 2-year, then their next one, like parents are trying to run across town to drop kids on other sides of the town to practice, and we did that for like 2 years and it wasn't working. Like, we were losing more kids because parents just, it's not fair to the parents.
Well, that is the biggest issue, right? Because
Oh, for sure.
we know, and we've talked about this, that we know that we need to relocate you, right? That because for us to fix the field, you can't be on it,
Yep.
right? It's going to take a season or two for us to get the field into proper shape and money, right? Which the town is said in the past that we're not afraid to spend the money to fix it. We just don't have anywhere to put you. And once we solve that issue or can figure out a solution where we can temporarily place you guys, then we can hopefully start the process of getting the field up to date.
But it sounds like there may be other alternatives. You just have had some barriers.
Resistance.
Sure.
Well-
So I think that's part of where we can.
Even just not having JV play at Lavalette would allow us to still squeeze in there.
Right.
And that's a conversation we can have.
So
that
I think
Brett
that's
can
what
have
We
with
can,
the
we can,
schools.
right? So this is the school. It's just, I'll cross this one off for everyone's sake. The schools do their own booking for their fields. The town does not control any school fields at all.
But you do if we pull permits for Lavalette, so are they allowed to use it without
Lavalette's not a
permits?
school
It's
field.
not a school.
But it's not a
Right.
school field,
Correct.
but it's a town field.
Correct.
But when I've
They use
approached
for
the AD,
JV.
he says that it's their home field and that he has first rights to it.
That would be correct. Yes, the varsity and JV programs, if they get bumped from their facility, they would take priority over a youth practice game. It would trump the youth sports on that. I know I understand that being an answer you guys want, but that's reality of that's how it's always worked.
But this
Same thing
isn't-
for basketball. I'll go back to I know you guys are soccer specific, but basketball, if they have a game change, it may interrupt because again we're operating really with 2 courts right now. We have Old Mill Pond and PHS and Pathfinder when available. But if their game gets interrupted, we have a snowstorm, right? They have to reschedule. They bump the youth group who's renting it.
And that's understandable, but season after season, JV says their home field is Lavalette. They're not getting bumped there. That is what is put down as their home field.
They're identifying it.
They're identifying it
because
as
they're
the
not
home field,
utilizing
not-
the other fields that belong to
Because,
them.
like, soccer, I mean, since I've had a kid playing soccer forever, they used to play at Duke, or not at Duke, Legion several times a season. We had one game at Legion last year.
Well, I
Like,
think
it's harder and harder to use Legion.
Yeah.
We're being told that the soccer program can't play on Legion, or that it's where it's being scheduled into primarily first.
But going back to rewind, we also don't want to put everything at Legion either because we don't want it to
get
turn
that.
like Lavalette, and
No,
it
we
just
get
gets
that.
overuse on that. So I'm committed to working with you guys. There's no doubt about that. There's solutions we can find here, but there's never going to be a perfect solution. I know you guys mentioned having to shuffle. I think of Chase Field, another field that we've underutilized for years here.
Exactly.
When I was a kid growing up, I used to play Camp Stanica for Palmer Youth. Like, for some reason, we don't allocate times at those fields anymore. I don't know why. I know Camp Stanica's private,
Jesus,
but
gravel, it's really bad.
but again, that may be an option that we have to utilize.
And Chase has
And there's
that
no parking.
parking
There's no parking.
for that many kids.
And I thought
And
Pat-
I know,
But
but
if
I
you break
think
out, if we're gonna go with the rotating, because we
Right.
do need to give our fields rest. That's part of Lavalette's problem, is though
Right.
it does not get rest. It has gravel issues. I don't think we did a good job when there used to be a tennis court on it. I don't think we dug up far enough. There's still things that come up that it should have been taken care of. But ultimately, if we look at this, we may be able to move people around. But it's not to say that you're going to have a one-size-fits-all campus
Right.
for your entire
And
program.
I think we understand that, and I think one of the things Karen spoke highly of Palmer is because we're so affordable and we have all these parents going, we're trying to be respectful of their time. And us as coaches, we pick up our kids, we drive them everywhere. If it's a family of 4, we help out. I think we're all willing to make the accommodations. It's just we need somebody to start working with us to make sure we can have the fields that we can work with. I mean, we're willing to pivot within reason, but I think the biggest thing is, again, when we have Lavalette Field and we're trying to use it, and then the high school is kicking us off, and we're pivoting again, it's almost like the Palmer Soccer's pivoting every time, and nobody else is making accommodations to pivot with us.
Yeah, and that's where I'd want to ask scheduling for scheduling purposes. If JV is going to be, if their home field is Lavalette, they should just book that out so you guys don't book it
Well, then we have no place to play.
for those however many games we have down there. Yeah, that may be that, but at least you don't have to pivot. You know what your schedule is.
You'll know ahead of time is what he's saying, instead of last minute, hey,
I get it. It doesn't help your practice schedule overall,
No.
but at least it doesn't change the course of all of a sudden at 4 o'clock you're getting a call. We have to cancel everything today.
Well, it's usually not that. Like, we know at the beginning of the season what's affected. It's very rare that we've had to, like, last minute pivot. It's just the fact
It's
that
never
we
been
would.
pivoting to another field in town or another opportunity. It's
Right.
how do we make use of what we already have? So if we knew in advance, then we could work with all of the parents to say, this practice will be at this
And
location.
we
If
do
there
that.
were another
But like last
option, that
season,
would help.
there was only 2 or 3 games, so it wasn't that big a deal. I've been told in advance there's going to be a minimum of 8 this season in the fall. So
Yeah, that's right. I haven't
destroys
coordinated
our
any schedule, so
program.
I don't know. I'd have to
But
meet
then
with.
you have Duke, you have the field behind the high school that no one is utilizing. You have Legion
Well,
Field.
varsity,
Well, that
plays
just-
varsity plays
and
at
it
Duke.
just opened, so, I mean, we just
Correct.
did
You've
that
got
one.
Legion Field,
Correct.
you've got a number of other fields, and I think what it is our biggest thing is why are they using the fields or why aren't they using the fields that they might have more accessibility to than Palmer Soccer?
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but that's where I don't know the scheduling behind the scenes.
Yeah, and also Legion is a town. It's not a school.
Correct. No,
So,
there's yeah.
yeah.
But they don't use that for every home game.
No, I know that, but
No, but
I
they
mean,
didn't even
Legion-
use it for 2 this year for the girls' soccer.
right. I do think that
So,
Legion is
We used to
probably
have at
under.
least.
Yeah, I don't know the scheduling. To be honest, I know Duke's like the main one, and then when they have under the lights, I know they shift to Legion obviously because the only one with lights. But
But there's other time options too, right? So like a lot of towns will have it where a game starts at 3 or 3:30 after school, which stinks for the parents, but then they can do games back to back.
Right.
When my oldest played at first, that's what they did. And that way it didn't screw with other fields, excuse me. But now it's like 4 o'clock. I had a kid on varsity and a kid on GB. I had to choose every day which kid to go watch, right? Whereas they could have been staggered, or they could have been back to back for a fun night at Legion, or
there's a lot to that though for scheduling.
So I
'Cause
think
I can
I-
tell you a bus to rent a
just need
bus.
to open a conversation.
Yeah, I was just gonna
right?
say, I think that it's important that you guys came tonight and had, opened up the conversation, and so we are, we can be better at working with the youth sports and making sure that you guys have adequate space. So, we appreciate. Do we have contact information for you guys?
If you go on palmersoccer.org, you'll find all of us on there.
Okay,
So-
great. So we'll know how to reach out to you. But again, we thank you guys for your time
you.
tonight.
A couple other takeaways, not for you guys, but just in general, it was the crosswalk at Belanger. There's
Oh,
only
yeah.
there's only one crosswalk on Main Street in Three Rivers,
I
and
did
that's
wanna-
all the way down at the corner of, by the bridge, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we can possibly look into a new crosswalk. That's not an issue. I do know that the top of Belanger is a school bus stop for a lot of kids that live in the apartments in the back and on Belanger in the condos and all that. So that is a big bus stop on the corner. Also, speed bumps on Belanger I don't think would be a huge concern since the speed limit, but we'd have to look into that. And the only other thing I have to request is to check the cars in the parking lot, the PHCC. I'm almost positive that people are using that as a regular everyday parking for their vehicles in the town parking lot, not necessarily just in the winter.
Right.
But there's always the same vehicles there, whether or not they're abandoned or if they live very close. I'm not sure, but a lot of the vehicles don't look like they move very much.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we have any type of policies about what parking restrictions there are for public lots, but I
We
think.
could post up. I mean, we could do things. I mean, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no overnight parking.
I would
but
just
we
want to
could-
be
right.
consistent in if we have one public parking lot that's not allowed for overnight parking, that we
Well, no,
make
it
sure
would-
we evaluate.
Correct, I get it.
policies For
I
all the
totally
parking
understand.
lots. But yeah, no, I think that the crosswalk is something that we can look into, but speed bumps are always speed bumps, if we didn't have snow,
Oh, that's true. I forgot about
ice.
that. Right.
Yeah,
People would just
But-
be sane, and I mean, you shouldn't have to
No.
have a speed bump to.
have,
I don't know. I mean, I just seen it today going by the junction. Somebody lost a big container of screws and nails. I mean, we ended up with hundreds of dollars worth of decking screws and all of this. I had to stop my truck and trailer because at first I thought it was just trash, but it was all these screws. So we stopped, and there was still a lane that could come down Cemetery Hill. My son's out there picking all this stuff up. We're trying to get all the nails and stuff out of the road. And these people still, for some reason, can't wait a lousy 3 minutes. And congratulations to the guy that went flying by us as we finished up, because he ended up sitting at the red light up at the rug mill anyways. So congratulations on that. But, you know, people are just lunatics. They get in their car, and if it's not on their street that they're living on, they drive nuts. And
well, I appreciate, me and my tires appreciate you picking up all of the nails, because God knows I've run over quite a
when
few
we
myself.
came back down,
But-
we finished cleaning up, and thanks to Cheryl and the bus stopping and keeping traffic off of us for a little while. And,
Yeah.
but,
Well,
eh,
I mean, there are other,
no matter what you do, they're gonna, you know,
yeah.
I don't know. Everyone thinks they're the most important, and they got to get somewhere, and
Yeah.
need to calm down.
Do we have another
Okay,
public comment?
So, if you could just look into the
Do we have-
crosswalk.
Any other public comment?
Are there any other public comments?
Hello, everyone. As you know from several emails I've sent you in the last couple of months, my name is Mike Moran. I live at 135 Shearer Street. I was born and grew up in Palmer, and I'm almost a lifelong resident. Thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight to tell you why, as a citizen concerned about the growing risk of nuclear war in the world, so no more soccer for the next few minutes, I'd like you to join other local and state officials across the country in signing an open letter to the U.S. Congress asking them to pass 2 bills that would greatly reduce that risk. So why, you may wonder, am I concerned that the risk of nuclear war is growing? I'll give you 2 reasons. First, 2 weeks ago, nuclear weapons experts at the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists reset the hands of their annual doomsday clock at 85 seconds to midnight for 2026, the closest it's ever been to world destruction. And second, just 4 days ago, New START, the last nuclear weapons reduction treaty between the United States and Russia, expired. So where does that leave us now? Are we on the verge of a new nuclear arms race? No, say 54 and counting U.S. Congress members. Our own Senators Markey and Warren and Reps McGovern and Neal are among the lead co-sponsors of similar bills in the U.S. Senate and House that would go far beyond New START by negotiating a verifiable, time-bound agreement among all 9 nuclear-armed nations to eliminate their nuclear arsenals. Such an agreement would not only honor the long-standing commitment to that goal by 4 of those nations as signers of the 1970 Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but bring all 9 of them into compliance with the 2017 Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, now endorsed by a majority of the world's population and observing its 5th anniversary as international law last month. Both these bills reflect input by Back from the Brink, a nonpartisan U.S. grassroots campaign that also drafted the open letter I'm asking you to sign. The bills also include these common sense, confidence-building measures. Renounce the option of using nuclear weapons first. End the sole, unchecked authority of any U.S. president to launch a nuclear attack. Take U.S. nuclear weapons off hair trigger alert, and cancel current plans to replace the entire U.S. arsenal with enhanced weapons. When President Trump took office a year ago last month, he said, "We want to see if we can denuclearize," and I think that's very possible. This may sound like an impossible dream, but much of it has actually been done before. When Presidents Reagan, Bush, Gorbachev, and Yeltsin reduced the worldwide nuclear arsenal from 70,000 weapons to the current level of 12,500 when the Cold War ended over 30 years ago. These weapons were built by people who also know how to dismantle and destroy them. Finally, you may also wonder, why am I bringing this matter to your attention as my local town council rather than to national officials? First, support from local and state elected officials can always add pressure on the federal government to act. Second, a basic duty of elected officials at all levels of government is public safety. And in the event of a nuclear disaster, you would likely be the first people victims would approach for help. Lastly, to quote from the open letter, proposed plans to spend close to $1 trillion over the next decade to develop and deploy nuclear weapons are tax dollars not being spent to feed, house, and provide affordable health care to our constituents, address severe infrastructure needs, support our veterans, confront climate change, and ensure that everyone has clean air, water, and soil. The final point I'll make, as I reminded you by email, is that each of you would sign this letter to Congress as an individual counselor. You would not be taking a position as a full group. Before I introduce my guest, who is standing behind me, do you have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Okay. If not, I'll ask my friend and neighbor Tom Arventos to step forward, add a few words of his own. Then I'll read a brief statement from two other friends, Jim and Ursula Sanamon, who couldn't be here tonight.
Hello, council members. My name is Tom Arventos. I'm a Palmer resident. I reside at 57 Fairview Street, and I am a registered voter. I'll be brief. I stand in support of the proposal put forth by Mike that individual council members sign the back from the brink letter. As Mike has said, you would sign as an individual and you would not be taking a position as a full board. Mike already sent you the email with the link in support of the House and Senate resolutions. It's a very easy form to fill out online. Basically your name and address and your position as a council member. The deadline for the form is March 13th. I share Mike's and many other citizens' concern about nuclear proliferation. The Trump administration's resumption of nuclear testing is of especially grave concern. Although some people scoff at the concept of the doomsday clock, the fact that atomic scientists believe we are as close as we've ever been to world annihilation should be alarming. The expiration of the U.S.-Russian Nuclear Weapons Reduction Treaty is another reason to sign this important resolution. Thank you for the consideration of our proposal.
And now lastly, dear members of the Palmer Town Council, we're sorry not to be able to join you in person tonight, but our friend and neighbor Michael Moran has asked us to support his request that you sign an open letter to the U.S. Congress, asking them to pass 2 bills which could reduce the danger of nuclear war, and we're pleased to do so in this brief statement. Both of us have known Mike for many years, and we share his deep concern that the danger of nuclear war is growing. We also agree with him that as local officials, you have a responsibility to protect the safety of our community, including our own children and grandchildren. We are therefore happy to join Mike in asking you to sign the open letter that he shared with you and that we have also read. We thank you for your attention to this matter, and we wish you all the best in your important work. Sincerely, Jim and Ursula Sanamon, 65 Buckland Street in Palmer.
Thank you. And as you had mentioned, we have all received a link to the letter. If you are interested in reading more and supporting it or not, that is up to everybody on their own time to do some more reading. Thank
And
you.
as Tom mentioned, the deadline is March 13th. So
Thank you.
you have
That's
time.
important. Is there anybody else?
Steve Kazumi of Thorndike, back to the fields. Just exactly, what field does the Palmer High School control?
They have control over Duke Field.
Duke Field, yeah.
As far as fields, I think
Anything on the three that are on their campus? I don't know if, outside of Duke.
Oh yeah, there's the one at the bottom.
Slazinski Field. Yep.
Yes.
And is there
And then
is there a name for the one in the back where football practices, Bonnie? Do you know?
Behind the O'Mill Pond, like. No.
Well, no, Duke's up top.
The one off to the side.
I don't think
It's
so
like
either.
a football practice field
yeah.
historically. So they do have those 3 fields.
Okay, next question, Legion Field. Does anybody pay a fee to use that field?
Yes,
They're not
if they're not a town
like a school.
entity, even the schools will pay for like overtime.
Right,
and
for the-
various things. Yeah.
For the personnel time,
Correct.
but not actual.
Yeah, the football, right? Palmer Cowboys football, they use the field in the
Yeah,
fall.
if they have to
Right,
pay
I think
overtime
they pay,
and-
right.
yeah.
But that's not telling me who's
But is there like a
paying.
fee? So if another organization that's not associated with the town comes in, is there a fee on top of?
Yeah, there should be a standard fee.
Is there a standard fee? Is there any fee?
Well, do we allow any other organization besides the organization?
gotta
that
rent
we,
it.
We're
Yeah, we-
very selective on who uses that field.
We do.
Regardless,
There's
is there a
adult
fee?
baseball leagues
That's what
that
I'm
pay.
asking. Is there a fee?
I believe there is.
Yeah. I was always told there was a fee schedule.
Yeah, who's got it?
It was under rec.
Under rec.
Yeah.
Right. Who manages it today, do you know? Is it the guys down at the deep?
It switched to Dave Hansel.
Right, who's
when
down
the
there
rec
in his
director
office,
left.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last I heard of the recreation director was supposed to schedule all the town fields.
We
Is he?
well,
we
we
don't
don't
have
have
one
a
anymore.
director right now.
He was, and that's where it switched. So it went from the rec director who was doing it. This dates back to the prior two rec directors ago now. He was master scheduling it. When he left, it got moved back to the DPW and Parks Department because we didn't have anyone here to manage that. It was going to be moved back to the Recreation Department when we had a rec director. They now have left, and spring sports, in my mind, would be kicked back to Parks to schedule for the spring.
So it just gets bounced around from,
Hey, I wish we had a rec director. I'll be the first one to say a rec director would have solved a lot of the problems that we
Yeah.
just heard with the soccer groups.
exactly. But remember a year or two ago, I was here, basically the same thing. A fee schedule was supposed to be set up,
Yeah,
who
to-
was gonna pay and how much they were gonna pay. And that went nowhere. No?
Well, it did, because I know that they had the electronic, you had to go online, and there was an electronic thing, and you had to put in the organization, and what field, and what time, and there was a fee structure.
Well,
Right.
to this
I don't
day-
know who's
To
managing.
this day, nobody collected a dime, right?
Well, that
Right.
to my knowledge, yeah, we know. To my knowledge, we were billing. So if you were an outside organization and you booked, think of the adult baseball league, the over 30 league. If they booked Legion, they'd have to book it and pay all online.
Okay, what if you're a town entity paying taxes?
Town entity, there was a flat fee for them to use that field, I believe, as well. I'd have to look at the schedule, but I'm pretty sure it was not expensive. It's maybe, I don't want to quote, like a misquote, but there was a fee schedule, I believe, for even if you were a town entity. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, we discussed this a couple of years ago, and it went nowhere, and it's still going nowhere, and, you know, it's,
I mean, I don't think it's gone nowhere. There are fees that are collected. We just don't know at the top of our head how much has been collected.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that
How
one.
I
much
mean, we
to
can
collect,
get that
too, you know.
information. We can get that information.
Somewhere there should be a schedule. You can
Yeah.
either go online or come to town hall or something and see who's paying what, if anything, and why not, and, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, even renting out, even renting Pathfinder Legion, we bill them back for that. The high school sports, though, they only, to my knowledge, they only cover overtime fees. So I don't want to. I mean, I just made the statement that all town organizations pay. They pay. It varies the amount. For the high school, right? We bill back through net. It's called net school spending. So we capture a part of our parks department, and essentially it's charged to the school. It's not charged directly, but it's captured as an expense for the school department. But anything above and beyond that, for overtime, for football, night games, that is all billed back directly to the school department. But for organizations outside of that, so just to go back to youth soccer, I'm pretty confident that they pay a flat fee to book the field.
Okay, when you use the lights, does anybody pay a fee for using?
So it should be the same. There should be an added fee onto that schedule. Yes.
Schools, no matter what, or
The schools get grandfathered in. They don't pay the light schedule.
they don't pay the light?
No, I think they just pay overtime. Yep. And I know there is money in a revolving account because we use that. We had issues last year with the Legion Field lights. We paid a piece of that bill from that revolving account. So there definitely is money in that revolving account that we've taken in. Now, how much has it been over the last 5 years? I can't tell you. But there definitely was a pot of money available to utilize.
Okay, so the schools don't use lights, but any
They
other
use lights. We don't
organization?
charge them back. We don't charge them.
You don't charge them, period. You don't charge the schools,
We charge them for their overtime.
just overtime.
And I don't want to get
And then you turn the lights on.
I don't want to do this even more. We charge Palmer for overtime only because we already capture part of what their expenses are through net school spending. Pathfinder does not capture anything, so we work with them. I don't know what the flat dollar amount was, but they pay X amount to use it plus an additional fee to cover all of the overtime. And the lights are built in there too. There's an extra dollar amount if they use the lights for football or baseball, whatever sport they play. And that's money I know we got a check last year for that.
From,
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder.
okay. How much are they, do you remember?
I know. I don't off the top of my head. No. Because again, they had some of their home games got pushed to away games. It got their original 10-game schedule, let's say, I think only ended up being 8 or 7, and it changed the whole dollar amount at the end of it. But I can pull a sheet for you, Butchie, if you want.
No, you don't have to, I'm just, trying to set something straight, because it seems that, you know, it's not being run right. You know, as far as who's using it and what they're paying for, and
Well, I think that was the big push of why we went to an online system. Correct me if
Right.
this was before I started here, but other towns I worked in, they're small like this. It used to be you do it on pen and paper and keep it on this master spreadsheet. It doesn't work like that anymore. Everyone goes online. That's how you book. That's how you bill. And literally everything is done through signups online. Is there a fee schedule on there?
I'm trying to find it. I can't sign in.
well, you have an assistant
in,
now,
but I
maybe
don't
she
see it.
could do
I have
scheduling.
admin aside from when rec left. So it says like a request button.
Did
but
you
I
hear
can't
me?
see it.
Any other?
Yeah, I don't want to give her scheduling.
Scheduling.
I want to find a rec director who hits a lot of our needs.
Yeah.
Because you got her right in the building here. You don't have, you know.
Well,
Like I
rec-
said, our recreation department is in transition right now. We're trying to figure out what the next step is, whether we hire another full-time person or if we look to partner with another community. But recreation, as we've heard tonight, loud and clear, is something that we, especially field
It just
scheduling.
seems that a recreation director is a waste of time and money.
When
When it's recreation started, I assume the recreation director, at the time we had town Little League baseball, Little League softball, you know? To me, our town's paying for a recreation director, that's recreation.
Should be under their
And
control.
that should be the person that's scheduling.
Right, but
Well, I
unfortunately.
think the comments that we've heard loud and clear tonight have justified why we need a
Right.
somebody
We
organizing
need a rec director
recreation.
to coordinate all of the groups in town, and
They
that
don't
is a
stay
job
here long
inside.
enough.
Huh?
They
Well-
don't stay here long
Well,
enough.
the
Right,
last
and so
gentleman
that's-
had another job offer prior, and there was
That's
right.
because they're getting more money and they're gonna leave.
Well-
So yeah, so these are all
Like a revolving
Things
door.
that we're, and that's why the conversation is shifting towards what we do to best serve the residents in the area, and the recreation needs, and we're trying to be creative in the way that we approach that. So it is a work in progress, but it's something that I think everybody on the council has prioritized over the past couple of years, is how important that recreation is. And
Just to coordinate.
yes,
Just to coordinate.
and it's not even limited to just the children in our school systems. And that's why we've prioritized it, because there are adult baseball leagues and there are the little kids that want to play sports. So
And people even holding events at the park. You know, like Sober in the Park, and the Chamber uses the park. You know, there's a lot of organizations that use the parks
outside of sports.
outside of sports.
So-
Right.
But all this bleeds into a bigger issue, which I'll hit my town manager report quickly. But we did get a grant to look at regional, possibly a shared service model for recreation between Munson and Palmer. And Munson has a lot of where they in-house it, like you just mentioned, baseball, right? When I met with them a couple weeks ago, he had baseball jerseys and softball jerseys all in his office because it's managed by the town, not the individual leagues.
Yep.
But that all has to be worked out. But long term, when we look at our budget tonight, I give you the projection of what we're up against. All of us are going to have to think outside the box of how do we're never going to be able to pay a rec director here in Palmer $100,000. And that's the going rate to keep, like, that's the going rate. So we have to live with that and say, we can't meet that. How do we work within our budget confines and make something work? And I think we're going to have to look at shared services for that, whether it's Munson, another town, to make this all kind of move forward. But we did get a grant to look at that, and I'll talk about it in town manager's report. But we're looking at other alternative options that hopefully help us keep a rec director here in town.
Yeah.
There's your girl
Yeah.
right there.
You know.
Thanks. Thanks, Butchie. Anything else?
Ready.
Is there public comments tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to the approval of minutes. We have minutes for January 12th. Does anybody have any corrections? Just making sure I was at this one. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the minutes for January 12th, 2026.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, new business. We have a first read for adoption of provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40U, and we have Brown Legal Counsel with our Board of Health agent Nicole Gauthier and Bill Fenner of Inspection Services.
There you go.
Give me a second.
You got it.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you.
Evening.
My
And
name
just for the council, quick reminder, this is a follow-up. We talked about this 2 meetings ago, when we were talking about a lot of the questions that came from public comment about us not being able to enforce X, Y, and Z on different properties. I mentioned that this would be coming forward. Now's the time to talk about it because this would give us teeth to really push a lot of the ongoing issues we have with various parcels here in town.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Peter Brown. I am an attorney in Boston. I have been your tax title counsel since 2010. I have done some occasional code enforcement work over those years with the departments. And over the past year, we've been working more intimately with Bill and Nicole and trying to deal with some of the problem properties in town. And on behalf of Brad, on behalf of Bill and Nicole, they asked us to kind of look at the system, look at the bylaws, and sit there and say, how can we start dealing with some of the really bad properties where our existing bylaws don't really give us all of the tools that we need to go and address the problems that they're encountering. I want to start with the fact that over the past year, we've had a number of successes, and I've been exceedingly impressed by the cohesive work of Bill and Nicole as supported by Brad and this town council. We've taken on a number of properties, we've gone to court, we've won, we've talked to owners, we've encouraged them into compliance, we've coerced and compelled them into compliance, and we've done a lot of good things. So I don't want this presentation to come off as the town is not doing what it needs to do and we need to reinvent the wheel and bring in something wild and new. We just need some more tools. We need some enhancements so that we can go and give the town the results that you all need. And I want to present to you a program that's been utilized in other communities that I've brought in that has been widely accepted by building commissioners, health agents across the Commonwealth for about the past 10 or 12 years, has been very successful, and I've implemented it in both large cities and small towns to great success. And so I'd like to go and bring it to Palmer. I've presented it to Brad and to Bill and to Nicole. They're excited about it, and we think it could help solve a lot of problems and show you a lot of success stories, hopefully very soon. So, if I can. The program we're going to be talking about tonight is under Mass General Law, Chapter 40U. We've pretty much been operating for many years under Chapter 40, Section 21D. Bill writes tickets under a statute called 148A, but they're limited. They're limited in their effectiveness because they're tickets against a person, not a property. They force us to go to court. It's something from the 70s and the 80s. It doesn't work in 2026 anymore. So pretty much what this program would go and allow us to do is to deal with abandoned properties where people have just kind of thrown their hands up and walked away, banks that don't really care about the community and don't want to respond to us, situations where owners or family members can't access equity to a property, so they're not doing what they need to do. What we're seeking to do is to modify how we operate and operate under Mass General Law Chapter 40U, which pretty much says we would go and issue orders, issue tickets when needed, when people don't go and comply, when Bill and Nicole talk to them, give them their warnings and things of that nature, but we would operate under the state sanitary code. And what this allows us to do, it gives us the most legal heft when having to go to deal with an entity or an owner. And the other thing we want to talk about is from a financial perspective is implementing a code enforcement revolving fund. This is something that's been looked at by the Department of Revenue. It's an acceptable thing to go and do. It's very similar to what you're doing right now with the NICE account funding that you have and that Bill and Nicole and Brad have put to good work to going and dealing with some urgent properties, doing some cleanups or doing some demolitions. But what this allows us to do is to get off the burden of your budget and to go and take the appropriation, get it into a revolving fund, and then go and use the revenue that will be generated by the people that are causing the problems in the community, the people that are sucking the burdens of your workforce here to address their problems, and we'll take that money and that revenue and then regenerate it so that year after year you'd have the investments that you need into your code enforcement program. The advantages of Mass General Law Chapter 40U is that the tickets are against the property. You're no longer fighting with the person from a legal perspective. Gets us out of court. We've gone to court and we've won, but it takes time. It takes money to the point where a win is not really a win in the end of the day when you're fighting over limited resources to deal all the things that you have to do with the town. It allows us to bring things in-house and operate a lot more administratively, allows us to bring in a hearings officer, so instead of us having to go to court, and it also allows there to be these code tickets. When people don't respond, they don't do what they need to do, if they don't appeal the tickets become liens on their property as a matter of law. So the way it works, it's like an unpaid water or sewer bill. It becomes a lien on the property, and then it can be added to a tax bill. And again, this is for your really, really bad properties where the regular process hasn't worked, where the efforts to reach out and get compliance hasn't worked, and you need to go and bring something more powerful against them. Okay. By operating under the state sanitary code, it gives us our strongest orders. That's what we've been doing over the past year. It's the easiest path in terms of whether it's generating the revenue or, more importantly, going and telling the property owner, you're either going to fix this and do this and spend the money to go and do it, or you're going to spend the money the other way because it's going to get added to your tax bill in the end. And it gives us a legal way to go to court, get administrative search warrants if we need to go through receivership programs, to have the court appoint somebody to take over a property if necessary. And in the end of the day, it allows for tickets up to $500 a day on a property. And again, this would be your worst of the worst properties when people have gone and said, we have no interest in working with you, we have no interest in public safety, we have no interest in trying to go and solve a problem. Okay? One of the reasons we're coming and asking for a revolving fund so we can go and administer all of this is because while the state gave us a lot of power to be able to go and do this and gave us the tools to be effective, it also came with administrative burden. And so that's where the giving us the financial support of the revolving fund allows us to go and administer the process. This is the scary document that I showed to Nicole and I showed to Bill, and I said, listen, there's good things that we can go and do. We can solve these problems, we can solve these properties, but it comes with a lot of work, it comes with a lot of burden. And they said, we want to be successful, we want to take these properties on for the town, and we're willing to go and do it. Just give us the support that we need to go and do it. And with the revolving fund and the implementation of the program, we can go and make this work. So I'm not going to go through all the intricacies of this, but effectively what it does is it takes the appeals process that happens in Palmer District Court and it brings it in-house. It requires certain notices, it requires various due process protections and tracking. It requires coordination between our code enforcement system, the administration, our financial apparatuses in the town, but we can go and make it work. I've done it again in big cities, I've done it in small towns, and as long as everybody's working together towards the same goal, and it's supported by the administration and supported by the legislative body, it has always worked and always been a significant success. From a financial perspective, this is kind of how it works. You get a code ticket, you can either pay it or you can appeal it. If you don't do anything, you get a reminder letter, and after 51 days, that code ticket becomes a lien on your property, just like a water sewer bill. Then once a year, if there are a lot of code tickets on a property, there might be $20,000 in tickets, it might be $200, whatever it is, those go and get certified by the health department, certified off by our office as counsel with the administration, goes to the assessor's office and gets added to the tax bill. And so at the end of the day, you could be adding a lot of money to the annual tax levy based on code violations against banks, absentee landlords, and people that are causing the problems and causing the financial burdens that you have to provide all the services with. So I've done this for big cities. We've added over $1 million to the tax levy on particular years. I've done it for communities where it's been a few $100 on a particular property. So you do it and you use it as needed for your community, but this system is malleable and it can be used to go and work for your community as it's needed. If the ticket's not paid on the tax bill, it ultimately goes to tax taking and tax title, and the town would go through a foreclosure process, and either the taxes get paid or the town forecloses and goes and sells the property. When a ticket goes and gets paid anywhere in this process, if you were to implement the revolving fund, the amount for the code tickets would get segregated out and resent over to the building or health departments to then go and be utilized to support their ongoing operations. So it does require personnel and resources. We've determined we can operate with what we currently have, but they're taking on a burden. When you go and you operate under 40U, it requires tickets have to be done in a very specific way. They have to be on a specific form. They have to be filled out a particular way. They have to be affixed to the property. The notices have to be done. They have to go and be tracked. And so there's an administrative component with that. We would go in and get a municipal hearing officer. A lot of communities of this size would go and have somebody, you kind of do it on a per diem basis. They could do remote hearings. But you have to give them notice and give them the opportunity to be heard and go and appeal their tickets and make those decisions, kind of like a parking hearing. We have a code enforcement team that we're currently operating under. On these big properties, we get search warrants, we go and we do big inspections, we issue the orders. And if you have properties that get really bad and get a lot of ticketing, it requires coordination with the finance department. The finance department needs to know what properties the health department and the building department are working on. So if there's a municipal lien certificate, if there's a refinancing or sale of the property, that those funds are known, they're identified, they're disclosed, and they're captured and collected at the appropriate time. What this also does is it can provide us funds for emergency cleanups, board ups, property remediation. When you get the calls and you find out there's an emergency issue for the neighborhood, and we really need to go and do something, this would give us the funds and the ability to move a lot quicker and address more properties. Specifically as to the revolving fund, in my experience, it's become self-sustaining. It's covered all the annual costs, and it's ended up being a revenue generator. Right? That's not the goal. We're not sitting there and targeting properties to go and try and make up your budget by hitting all properties. But we've noticed that, listen, there's problems out there, and you got to go and deal with them. And a lot of these properties put major drain, major burdens on your resources and on your staff. And our experience is, it could generate a significant amount of revenue. So we found we could go and take on these properties, we could solve them, we could resolve them, and move on to the next one. So we're seeing more and faster remediation than I think you would have seen before. It gives us the funds and the ability to go and maneuver more flexibly. Again, getting out of your budget, which I think could be a big aid and assistance to you. And what it does most of all, what we found, is that we get out there, we're successful, we make it public, we show our successes, we share our successes. We're able to go and say to people, listen, you don't want to be one of these. You don't want to go and get whacked at $500 a day tickets or be hitting that, get $20,000 added to your tax bill. You don't want to be one of these businesses. You don't want to play that game with us. And so they go and they learn that we're for real, we have these tools, and we're willing to exercise these tools. Then the next 5 properties don't end up on our list. They go and they realize they got to go and get themselves to compliance. And those are really the best victories, where we don't have to expend that time, we don't have to expend that money and resources. And at the end of the day, you can take a huge part of a burden that you have on your budget, get it off of the general fund, and this could be its own self-sustaining process. Overall goals, what's very important, it's not punitive, it's not meant to punish, it's meant to go and bring properties into compliance. We've all experienced, whether watching on the news or you're seeing here in Terrible Town, that horrible tragedy where, a building falls apart, there's a terrible fire, God forbid, our emergency responders, fall injured. We got to make sure properties are compliant with the sanitary code. Bill and Nicole are not out there nickel and diamond people looking for little, minor violations. They're dealing with really bad properties that make it unsafe for people to live in, to be around, that are affecting the significant value of the neighborhood. So we got to go and be able to address those properties. We got to go and be able to take them on in a reasonable amount and make sure we can get the problem solved. We want to be done hearing about that property that's just been a burden on everybody for the last 10 years and nobody can solve it, and there's all these things. Everything is solvable. If we have the tools, a program like this, we can go and we can solve it all, and we can go and show the people there's a road to compliance, and they'll either do it on their own or we'll get it there for them. Most importantly, it'll operate at a cost-neutral way, and in fact, I believe will end up being a revenue generator for the town.
But if it's held in a revolving fund, then, it doesn't, like you said, you're taking it off of the general fund. So if it's being held in a revolving fund, then it's only going to cover the cost that's being incurred?
Well, it depends. So what we've done is, we did two things. One is in our suggested first, in our first draft, is that you go and you authorize it, you're gonna go and review and evaluate it on a yearly basis. The law requires you to dedicate at least 25% to a stabilization fund. You don't have to dedicate 100%. So it could be 100% the first year, then you see what it kind of goes and does and generates. I've had other communities, when they go and they review it on an annual basis, they go and they might adjust the percentages, or they also can go and do transfers depending upon the status of that account. So I've had experience where it's been self-sustaining and they've just left it there going forward, and you're right, at that point, it's not revenue generating other than it's off the burden of the budget. But I have others as well where they've gone and they've seen that revenue and they've allocated accordingly or played with the percentages going forward.
How would you put a dollar amount on that? That's the first thing I think of, because when we do our annual review of the revolving funds, we cap them, right? We put there's dollar limits on
Yeah,
them.
we could always we can make an adjustment.
No, I'm just
any given
curious.
month.
I'm like, how would you even
It would
gauge
be,
that?
My
So it's
initial
like-
thought of this, assuming this is the way we adopt it, would be do a one-time free cash infusion to get like seed money in there, and then the goal is that it's going to pay for itself as we move forward. And it would take 50 grand off our budget, because that's what we put in for NICE right now. We could remove that from the operating budget. Again, fund this with free cash.
So shifting NICE to this schedule.
Correct.
So is it just as,
No, you
is
go
it just as easy as just adopting 40U?
well, we would have to create a new ordinance.
Correct.
So this
what-
is the first reading of the ordinance.
Yes, so in the materials that we presented to you, this PowerPoint, we drafted a proposed section 90-24, which is pretty much word for word the 40U provisions. So the law requires that it be formally adopted by the legislative body, and then from there, if we have the revolving fund, we're ready to go and get to work. So this would be a first, this is a first reading. We have to go and, come back. So I just kind of wanted to give that 50-foot view. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And then we have Brad's support and the support of people running your code enforcement that are looking forward to this and believe there's properties that we could go and solve for you with these enhanced tools.
Would this go through the ordinance committee?
No.
This is it's a town ordinance.
Yeah, it does need to go directly through them, though.
No, us, as in the ordinance review. The town council committee.
Yeah. Yes. It can. It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to.
But it can.
Right.
No, the only reason why I ask is because there's a bunch of local ordinances that are gonna be superseded by this ordinance. It's listed on the bottom. So do we keep those ordinances on the books while we're reviewing the ordinances now, or do we obsolete the ones that are being superseded?
So they won't become obsolete. So what 40U says and what we've documented in here, I just gave you the specific citations, is that it says it's going to operate independent
Got it.
of those other ordinances. That's been a good ordinance, and it's been successful, and they've done a lot of good work. So they're going to continue to utilize that on some of the lighter properties and things of that nature. It just means for purposes of implementing 40U, we're not beholden to those provisions. We can operate independently under this new bylaw.
Got it. And you did mention residential and commercial properties. It's not limited to just residential properties.
It's the focus is residential properties because it's the state sanitary code. It also on commercial properties, it deals with the exterior. There is a legal debate over whether this would go and hit the individual commercial properties. For commercial properties, we would probably still utilize our other process in conjunction with this.
Right. The only reason I ask that is because obviously, we have a lot of commercial property vacant right now, and those properties are usually the ones that people complain about where they're not being taken care of on the outside.
Outside, we could use this. If we're in the inside, we have to do a kind of a combination of those other ordinances and things. Which, again, I want to say they've been very successful in what they've been doing. So this will complement and not be a full substitution.
Yeah, I think we're finally hitting, a couple tough roadblocks with some frequent flyers that we've kind of exhausted the other avenue, and that's why we're bringing this forward.
Yeah. So what do you need from the council? Do you need a vote?
Just the first read
This
today.
is just the first read, so we're just reading it. So is the schedule of fines, is that statutory or is that adopted by
So it's adopted in the bylaw. It just requires that you assert a schedule. Some communities go and just say it's the maximum amount allowed by 40U, which is $500. What we've gone and done says first ticket would be $300. Any tickets above would be no more than the max at $500.
Okay.
So there'll be a fee schedule attached to this at some point?
Well, it says the first fine is 300.
And then we go to 500. They'd have the discretion to continue at 300 or go to 400. But the idea here would be they would do a first ticket 300 and then they would go to 500, only because all of the other steps and processes that we've done haven't gone and worked. So we've brought this in because these are one of these special properties that's going to get the special attention, and they're going to need some extra enforcement.
And the only other thing I had was we had appointed a previous town manager to the municipal hearing officer.
That's me still.
Are you taking that?
I'm still, yeah, I'm the.
Okay.
If anyone else wants to take it, I'll.
Well, depending on how the revolving fund does, we'll talk about that. I'm not sure that is ideal, and so the more success we have, we can look at that as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Public comment?
No, not for
We'll
a
have
first reading. We're gonna have we'll have a public hearing at a later time. This is just the first read to read it into the record that this is the process that we're about to go through. In the future meeting, we will have a public hearing, which will allow anybody from the public to comment on it. So we're not gonna.
Will these people be hired before we have the public comment and all that?
No, so this process, so we're just starting the process of adopting a new ordinance. And so nothing happens with this ordinance until it becomes a part of our ordinances. So once it becomes accepted, and that has to follow a process. So the next process is we go to the public hearing. So it'll get posted in the newspaper. We'll have another meeting, like we had a public hearing earlier where we opened it up for public comment, and then that's when anybody from the public can state their piece on what this ordinance says.
You know where I'm going with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can imagine. Thank you, but thank you.
If he can win that case, he deserves a bonus. Right now.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just before we move on, I'll just read the little blurb at the top for the purpose of the first read. So it's article, oh geez, what is that for? 6? What might be? I can't read Roman numerals. Is that 4?
Yeah, I think it's
4. Article 4, Chapter 40U, Adoption of Fines, Section 90-23, Non-Criminal Disposition of Violations. It's going to be adoption of the provisions of Chapter 40U, Section 1-18, inclusive of the general laws. Non-criminal disposition is hereby authorized for the violation of any rule, regulation, order, ordinance, or bylaw regulating the state sanitary code. So that is just what this ordinance is about. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know. I was doubting myself. Too many Roman numerals lately.
I was like, I don't even know what you're looking at right this second.
Okay, so up next we have the draft of the Palmer ADA transition plan with James Mazik, AICP, and the consulting services, and Mike Kennedy, the ADA Access Advocacy Coordinator. If you guys want to come up to the microphone.
Hello, John Latour, Community Development Director for the Town of Palmer, and I want to introduce Jim Mazik from Center for Living and Working. He developed our
Actually, that's
ADA.
Mike Kennedy from Center for Living and Working. I'm not with Center for Living.
Okay.
I'm independent.
He's independent from that. Michael Kennedy and Jim did a survey of all the municipal properties and recreation fields, which was a topic today, and has had some observations and some recommendations. The plan is critical for us to be able to utilize grant funds and to have a plan to address any deficiencies. It's not something that's meant to be an enforcement It's a recommendation and a prioritization of the work that needs to occur at some point. So it's kind of like a list to address over time. So I'll let Jim handle the rest.
Thank you.
Okay?
So the town entered a contract with Center for Living Working, Inc. Mike Kennedy is the person that works with myself in doing that. I've been working with them for a number of years in partnership and kind of a joint venture. Mike is not able to be here tonight, so I'm going to cover his piece. And this is a don't shoot the messenger. So just a little background for myself. I'm a certified professional planner for 40 plus years. Worked in the City of Gloucester, town of Wayland, and town of Belchtown. And then for 32 plus years up to 2020 was the Deputy Director at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and also oversaw its Community Development Department. So years ago, we did a lot of work with Parmer and downtown stuff, economic developments, and some other things as well. I started doing this ADA type work independently, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, mostly in eastern, southeastern, and central Mass to avoid any kind of conflict of interest with my work in the Pioneer Valley region. And during that work, I was able to associate with Center for Living Working, Inc. They're a disability organization, independent living center in Worcester County, similar to Stavros and Amherst, if you were familiar with Stavros. So they do the same work. And we've been working together for close to 20 years now. We've done probably 60 plus of these ADA self-evaluation plans. We have 4 right now working on in Berkshire, Hampshire, Hamden, and Eastern Central Mass. We've also done work for private entities. We did work for the Palladium Theater in Worcester. I've done work independently for Hampshire College, and I've also done pro bono work for this Disability Law Center, their Northampton office. So that being said, I am going to go through, talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act, about 521 CMR, commentary on some of our front end stuff that we do, and then the format of the assessments. I'll briefly go over the self-eval piece that Mike normally does, and then do a general overview of some of the findings and open up for questions and that sort. So I'll move it along. You know, you've had a long agenda, and you still have more stuff to do. So, so the Americans with Disabilities Act, that was signed into law back in 1990 by President George H.W. Bush. And Jessica, you've heard this before when you had your hat on in Barry Town Administrator, because we did the same thing for the town of Barry. So that's over, 35 years ago. The ADA is a civil rights law. It's intended that there be equal access to all persons to programs and services. So it's intended that there be civil rights guaranteed to persons regardless of physical or mental impairment. There are 5 titles under the ADA. There are 2 titles that deal specifically to local jurisdictions such as yourself. Title 1 is employment, so the equal employment opportunity, which you're familiar with. And Title 2 is state and local government's access to programs and services, and that's really a requirement under the federal law that you have a self-evaluation and transition plan to be developed. And there are implications with that. So there are many entities where you would not be able to apply for funding unless you have that plan in place. I've worked with communities who were going for USDA funding to upgrade their treatment plant or their water facility, or maybe to build a public safety complex. They couldn't access those funds until they had the ADA self-plan, transition plan done. The Commonwealth of Mass typically will not approve an open space rec plan unless they're at least addressing the recreational areas, or in some cases the whole town has to have that completed. They won't accept that plan. On the CDBG side with Chris and John, the state's being more restrictive in terms of, one, you cannot apply for things which are dealing with barrier removal unless you have the ADA plan in place. And what they have been doing, I don't know if they're still doing this or not, John and Chris could attest to, that they were sending out notices to towns, cities and towns, that if you did not have an ADA plan in place within 5 years, they're going to withhold your CDBG funding. So it's very critical that these are in place. And once they're in place, it opens you up to apply for other funding to actually do various improvements once you prioritize those. So the current standards for under the ADA are the 2010 standards. Those went into effect in 2012. Massachusetts also has its own specialized section within the state building code for just accessibility compliance, but is a building code. ADA is a civil rights law. I mentioned about that, equal access programs of service and that sort of thing. 521 CMR, accessibility compliance is triggered solely by construction. So if you do work on a building and the work is less than 30% the value of the building and the work is under $100,000, just the work being done must be accessible compliant. If it's under 30% the value of the building and more than $100,000 of work, then the work that's being done, access to the building, a bathroom and drinking fountain, some other things must be accessible compliant. If the work is more than 30% the value of the building, then the whole building must be brought into compliance. And there's a 3-year period. It's a look back. So it could be you look at the work being done last year, this year, next year, or it could be this year, the next 2 years. It's a 3-year window that those dollar values come into play. So when we do these plans, we look at the higher standard of the two. Most entities only look at the ADA. The ADA regs and the 521 MCR regs vary. There are differences between the two. The ADA regs are literally this thick. 521 CMR is about this thick. But again, they don't mesh. And so we look at the higher standard of the two. And we also look at what the ADA allows for alteration of programs and services. And we have this in the report. So in some cases, rather than do a physical improvement, you could change how a service program is being delivered, or you can relocate that program or service, or you can deal with it as a reasonable accommodation request. It's not always something you have to do right away. So the plan format we have look at it as 4 areas. We have our front end, and I'll briefly go over that in a second. Then we have the self-evaluation discussion we have, and then there's the transition plans themselves. That's individual building assessments, and I'll go into that more detail later on. And then the appendices, which includes the survey form and memo that we handed out at the beginning of the project. And then any recommended policies, procedures. We have a list of funding sources, and you have a checklist that you can use to actually check off some of the items when you go through your self-eval component. So on the front end, we like to look at this. We have this for all the plans we do, and we're constantly upgrading and revising it. Like your one-stop shopping center. So, if Brad, you're the ADA coordinator, I believe, and if something comes up to your attention, you should be able to go this and hopefully find some of the answers in that front end piece. So we go into more. We have a chapter on the ADA and the 5 titles in more detail. We have another chapter on other federal accessibility regulations, including enforcement and contact information. We have another chapter on 521 CMR. We have a chapter on alterations to historic properties, because there are exceptions to historic properties. Your senior center building is an historic building. I'm trying to think another one that we might have looked at, but that immediately comes to mind. We have a section on EV charging station guidance. So when the regs came into effect on the ADA side in 2010, I think 521, the most recent version is early 2003 or 4. EV charging stations weren't in existence, weren't even thought of. But there are regulations on parking spaces, level surfaces, reach range, height to get to the operating device on that charging mechanism, or the route of travel to get to that. So we have guidance there that if you put one in, what you should follow for that. We have another chapter which would be helpful for probably police and fire, emergency preparedness for persons with disabilities. So if you have an emergency preparedness plan, then your folks who are involved with that should look at this and then maybe kind of adopt some things with their emergency preparedness planning work. We have another chapter on ADA service animals versus emotional support animals, and I don't know if that ever gets brought to your attention in Todd Hall. Somebody comes in with a lizard and said, "This is my service animal." Like, no, lizards don't make it as a service animal. It's emotional support, but emotional support's not allowed in the building. We have another chapter on ADA compliant portable toilets. We've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rec areas and portable toilets. Never have come across one that's ADA compliant. Typically, we find that there's not enough clear width in the front of the toilet or the side. There's items over the grab bars. The bench is too high. So we have that. We have some photographic examples in this chapter as well. We have another chapter, emergency eye wash station, which typically applies to schools, highway, police, fire. And then we have another chapter on accessible routes and playground surface materials. And we have a number of different types of surface materials we won't use for route of travel. And we have photographic examples. We have pros and cons of each. And we have a cost per square footage of that. So that's helpful if you're looking to put in, what we're talking, I think was a Lavlet field. So there's a stone dust field, and that is dresses, needs some issues there, repair work. But let's say you want to go and do something else. So maybe you had a field which didn't have an accessible route. Then you could look at that chapter and say, okay, we can look at this is going to be, would work, this would work, this would work, this is going to be that expense, and what you would want to do in the future on that. So the self-eval. So we look at 11 areas. Typically, there are only 5 required under the ADA. So this is where you're looking at your policies and procedures, your practices, and what's in compliance. I'm going to go things from now on very briefly. The report is much more detailed and specific, so I'm just going to really just hit upon things. So we looked at a commission on disability. You don't appear to have a commission on disability. We do recommend that you do appoint a minimum of 5 members, and you have that approved through town meeting action. You do have a ADA coordinator. Again, I believe that's Brad, but there's no really mention anywhere on the website, in the town reports. There was a discrepancy. The Mass Office of Disability includes a listing of ADA coordinators on their own website. There was a discrepancy, and I believe either John or Chris took care of that on MOD's website by notifying them. So again, it would be helpful to name who your ADA coordinator is and list it on your website in your reports, and then post it in the town office building or other buildings would be appropriate. Title II of the ADA also requires there to be a public notification on non-discrimination policies. It doesn't appear you have certain things in your town employee manual relative to that, but nothing a formal policy that we could find anywhere. So we have a sample in the appendix of the document that you could adopt, and then again recommend you post it in town hall and post it in on your website. There was a grievance procedure we found in your 2021 open space and rec plan. Not really sure if that was ever really formally adopted. So again, we provided another similar sample in the appendix. So really, you should formally adopt a grievance procedure and then again post it on your website and put it available in the appropriate town office buildings. Reasonable accommodation. So you should also have a reasonable accommodation policy as well as a reasonable accommodation form someone can fill out and then submit to the ADA coordinator to determine if what they're requesting is quote unquote reasonable. So we have, sample documents and forms in the appendices, and then again recommend you adopt that and then include that in your website again and post it. So job descriptions, Mike does a self-eval piece, so I don't know how many job descriptions he got from folks to look at. So one thing he did note, and one thing that should be, that the job description should be very clear and provide language that really focuses on the outcome and not what it takes to achieve that. And the job posting descriptions and postings must be, it should be similar in the same type of format. And again, we have more detail in the report itself, but often we find that wording that is used can be viewed as discriminatory, and that would put you in a position which you wouldn't want to be in if someone didn't get a job and then they said it because of the language included in that. So for example, I could be in a wheelchair and I can perform many functions, of a position. I could be sitting here doing work like you're doing. I can go and go to the copier and do things. So using words such as, walking. Well, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't walk, but I can move or traverse. I could, maybe I've got a disability with my hands, but I can still do certain things. And so, using hands and fingers, maybe you just operate or use. So this language, we have a number of, types of language that one look at with your job description. Make sure that it's something you can't come back and quote unquote bite you with something with a job. Maintenance, one of the things under the ADA is you regularly inspect your facilities, ensure maintenance of facilities. You may recall in Barry when Mike and I went out there to look at the old town hall building, and we drove over. You graciously went over there and took us into the building, and there's a handicap ramp into the building, and it's covered with a sheet of ice and about 4 inches of snow. I said, Mike, because he's a manual wheelchair user, I guess you have an early day. I'm going inside. So we were actually in 2 sites this past 2 weeks. One in West Springfield, and another one in the town of Mendon. And in both cases, we went and in the acceptable parking space and access aisle, and Mike went to go to use, and all the snow was piled up in the access aisle. And he's got a van, and he's got a ramp that comes out from his van, so he needs the 8-foot access aisle. So we had to find some place to park, so he could get access his ramp, but also no one's going to park and block his vehicle, so he can't get back into his vehicle. So it's important that things be maintained on a regular basis, and that includes and I'll get into this a little bit more later on, door closing speeds and signage and debris at the base of curb ramps, that kind of stuff. So that is part of it, and we do address in the report more detail. Effective communication is another thing to look at under the self-eval policy piece. We do have specific language, but it's important, and I don't think you have this language in all your meeting notices, that if you need certain services or effective communication, or you need an auxiliary aid, you need an assistive listening device, you need a sign language interpreter, that, who do you contact, how many days in advance, and that sort of thing. And one thing that you didn't know, you should have it, and again, we have the language in the report. Give yourself enough advance notice, because if someone says, I need a sign language interpreter, and you have in your notification, 2 days before the meeting, you're probably not going to get someone 2 days before the meeting. Give yourself at least 2 weeks advance notice. So how you post things or how you do it, make sure that you're covered on that. Assistive listening systems. I don't know what's the room. What's the seating count out in here typically? Is it less than 50, or is it 50?
Less than 50.
Less than 50. So 50 is a threshold, but there might be other meeting spaces in town. We always recommend that you purchase a portable assistive listening system, and those are eligible for funding once this plan is complete through the Mass Office of Disability Program. And they have their application beginning in, I think it's April-ish, and due in June. And a lot of the plans we've done, municipalities have done and obtained those. 521 CMR specifies a permanent fixed system. The ADA does not specify. We recommend, regardless, be portable, because you use it in multiple locations. Very it's going to be much more costly to do it in multiple locations. So portable, we always recommend that. I mentioned the chapter we have on emergency preparedness for persons with disabilities. So under this P, we look at that, and we strongly recommend that your police and fire look at that to include. And finally, voting. You have 2 locations in voting. One at the St. Thomas and one at the Divine Mercy. Both are reasonably accessible, parking and access into the building. There were some little mysteries, but reasonably accessible. And one thing we know, and we weren't able to look at this, so your town clerk indicated that she does have an Automark voter assist terminal available at both locations. That's a system which for people who are visually impaired. It's a screen and it's large, but the way it's set up is important. Now, what Mike does in his work at CLW on voting days, he goes on request by the state to look at different voting places in Worcester or other larger municipalities. And oftentimes what people do, you have a screen which blocks you see from your voting, but a lot of times the clerks will do it so the screen is against the wall, and I'm going up to vote, and now everyone can see how I'm voting. So you're going to be very clear that the screen is faced in a way that you cannot see how a person is voting. Okay, transition plan. I'm going to just go over the general format and then quickly go through, general things that we found, on the areas that we looked at. So we typically have, this is actually for this building, and I'll show you. We like to include a real brief narrative of what the building is. In some cases, we have more than we have here. How many square feet, when was it built, what's it serve, what's function, who is the responsible party. And then we like to put in this case here, we have a little over, we actually have about 2.5 pages of narrative description of what the areas of noncompliance. And this takes more time, but we would like to do that because you as a town council or a town manager, you can quickly just read through and identify what the area is, not all this detail specific with codes, and you get a quick feel of what the areas of noncompliance are. But then we go into more detail, and we do have in a table format, we'll specifically address what the issue is of noncompliance. We cite the federal code, the state code. We'll then specifically address in detail, what needs to be done, and then we list, a priority, a feasibility, a time frame, and a cost estimate. So this is an example, and I think this is one of the stairs coming in here. We identify what the issue is, we identify the codes, and then in this case here, replace the existing railings with ones that are between 34 inches to 38 inches above finished floor to the top of the railing, circular oval in cross section, 1¼ inches to 2 inches outside diameter, and with extensions at the top 12 inches parallel to the ground and bottom as feasible, the slope distance of 1 tread, then 12 inches parallel to the ground. So we have that in all of our reports here very specifically, and a lot of the people, the towns, municipalities we deal with, their facilities folks love this, and we've had many of them do that. They'll just take this, if they need to make a change, they'll take that description and just give it out to a contractor, and this is what we need to do. And we've done that with folks for bathrooms, for stairs, for ramps, and it's easy for you as well just to know exactly what's got to be done. So that is the format that we have. One thing to note is that and then we have obviously photographic examples of what things that we talked about. So that's for every single facility, building. We looked at your rec areas, we looked at your municipal buildings, we did not look at schools. We looked at your recreational areas, and we looked at a selected segment of sidewalks and curb ramps. So there are tolerance that we look at that's allowed. So if it's within that tolerance range, so 0 to 2 inches, 1/8 inch tolerance, 2/36 half inch, more than 36 an inch tolerance. So let's say a reach range, let's say which is 48 inches for a non-bathroom area. So let's say a defibrillator was 60 inches above finished floor. That's too high. I can't reach it. But let's say it was 48 and let's say it was 49 inches. So you're more than that 36 inches. That's a 1 inch tolerance. So if it's 49 inches to the operating mechanisms to get to it, it's within tolerance. It's okay. We're not going to write it up. But tolerances do not apply to ranges of dimensions or slopes. So we will write things up, but use common sense if it makes sense to change this. And in some cases, we'll leave it right in the report due to the cost to make this adjustment versus the benefit gained. It's not feasible, so therefore would recommend if required, then seek a variance, retain existing. So let's say you had a ramp. So I said that the tolerances do not apply to slopes. So the maximum running slope on a ramp is 8.3%. Let's say it was 8.5%. Technically, it's non-compliant. We're going to write it up, note it, but say, really, to do that 0.2% of a slope, to redo a ramp, there's no benefit there. Similarly with a grab bar. So a grab bar in a bathroom for an adult is 33 to 36 inches above finished floor to the top of the gripping surface. That 33 to 36 is your tolerance. So if you're 36 1/4 inches, we have to note it. It's not tolerance. Is someone going to come and say, file a complaint for a 1/4 inch? No, they're not going to. But you'll see in the report, but it's common sense that what you have to prioritize what makes sense to do. So general building filings. This is this is general, not specific. We have much more detailed in the report, which you'll find. Parking. Some places we found there was no designated accessible parking. The signage was too low. It has to be at least 60 inches to the bottom of the sign and no more than 96 inches to the top. Some cases the sign was too high or too low. And again, in many cases we found that the running slopes or cross slopes were greater than 2%. And in some cases, there are no van accessible spaces. If you have at least one, must be van accessible per area. Exterior use of travel into a building. In many cases, there are abrupt changes in level surfaces of up to a half inch. And so that's something that needs fixed. In many cases, you could just grind concrete or maybe redo with some asphalt. In general, many of the doors, they had closing mechanisms. The maximum operating force for an exterior door is 15 pounds. Interior door is 5 pounds. We have a little device we can measure the operating force. And doors must take at least 6 seconds to close. And that's, those are easy fixes, and we find that 99% of buildings we look at I mean, the wear and tear that these, just the forces get too much and the doors close too quickly. A lot of the areas with stair, the railings were not round or oval in shape. They were not at the correct height, and they didn't have top or bottom extensions. In some cases, we found that both ramp and stair railings were not the correct height or correct slope. In many cases, the buildings had, the doors had non-compliant hardware. That hardware is acceptable. Knob hardware is not, because knob hardware requires pinching and twisting of the wrist and use of the fingers, where it must be operable with a loose grip or closed fist, which you can with a lever of that type. In many cases, we found that there was the lack of tactile designation signage, or it was at the wrong height, or was not on the latch side of the door. In many cases, we found it was on the hinge side, not the latch side. Reach range is 48 inches above finished floor to the operating mechanism. That would include lights, and this is for non-bathroom areas. Light switches, codecs, drop boxes, we found that in a lot of cases. In many cases, we found office staff sinks, which were too high and lacked knee clearance. 521 CMR does not govern employee workplaces, but the ADA does. However, it's a staff sink only area in a like its own room. We typically look at that and say only make a modification. It results as a reasonable accommodation request, because it's typically for that staff in the office. But if you're in a staff break room where everyone in the building can use, then that would be something where then we would actually have need to modify it, because you get maybe 30, 40 staff people using that. ADA also governs glass panes on doors, so a viewing area. So if I'm in a wheelchair, I can see through that door, as well as someone who's not in a wheelchair. So the glass panes can be no more than 43 inches above finished floor to the bottom of the glass pane. A simple fix is just to block or frost that glass pane rather than replace it. A number of places we found where there are drinking fountains. Drinking fountains must be high and low. Low for a wheelchair, high for someone who doesn't use a wheelchair. In many cases, if you have a bad back or trouble bending, to bend way down and use that low drinking fountain is going to be a problem for you. So you have to have both. Protruding objects, anything that goes more than 4 inches into the accessible route of travel at a height of 4 inches to 80 inches is a protruding object. I'm not able to pick that up in my cane detection. So let's say I can't recall off the top of my head, let's say I had a defibrillator mounted in the hallway, so many feet up. The defibrillator is typically 8 to 11 inches out from the wall. So that's a protruding object. If I'm in the hallway using my cane, I'm going to bump into that with my shoulder. A quick, easy solution: just place a fixed object below that for cane detection. So now I'm going to pick that up, and I'll go around that, whatever the item is that's on the wall. Some areas where there is seating, I don't believe in this. Yes, there was out by the town clerk's office. Table and desk must have at least 27 inches of knee clearance for a wheelchair. I think it was like 25 outside the clerk's office, and at least and then proper knee depth. And also service counters. Service counters can be no more than 36 inches above finished floor, and I think there are some in this building that are higher as well. And in some areas, there are lack of compliant accessible routes of travel. Primarily, this was in the library where there was stacks. The widths were not 36, or maybe some furniture. So just, some maneuvering things around to get that route of travel. Bathrooms, and this is adult bathrooms. We typically found that the codecs were too high. Dispensers were too high. Dispensers in bathrooms, and I don't know why this is, the difference under the state for reach range for everywhere else is 48 inches. 54 inches. Under the ADA, it's 48 inches. But in bathrooms, for 521 CMR, it's 42 inches. So in bathroom, for a towel dispenser or a soap dispenser, can be no more than 42 inches above finished floor to the operating mechanism. But if that towel dispenser was located, or sanitizer, in this room, it would be 48 inches. But, so in the bathrooms, the dispenser was typically too high. We often found that the sink piping was not wrapped or insulated. Grab bars were often too high or too low. The toilet paper dispensers must be 7 to 9 inches in front of the water closet on center. Often they were too close or too far. The water closet flush mechanism must be on the wide or approach side, not if we found them on the near side of the toilet. And then there must be at least 42 inches of clearance on the approach side of the toilet, 42 in front for maneuverability of a wheelchair or a transfer from the wheelchair to the water closet, and then 18 inches on center to the near wall. So we found in many cases those were a little bit off, in some cases far off. So basically rendering them not usable for a wheelchair. And then in some cases we found the sink mirrors were too high. I have 2 areas left to go. 2 point plus 1 comment. So rec areas, and generally found there were a lack of accessible routes of travel fully to and around facilities. There must be a route of travel fully around. So again, if I'm a wheelchair user, I can get around the entirety to get to those ball fields on Lavlet Field, which you heard about tonight. If there is bleacher seating or benches, there must be a level area for a wheelchair, not the locations. Picnic tables must have, the adequate knee depth and knee height. Wasn't the case. A nuance for under ADA, if there are chain link gates, then on the push side of that gate, there must be a smooth surface from the ground level up to 10 inches. Presumably that's if I'm in a wheelchair and I'm using my chair to push that gate open. I don't get caught on it, such a smooth surface, not anything that I can catch my clothing or my chair on. I mentioned about portable toilets, and the same with Palmer. They were not ADA compliant or they weren't. Well, no, mostly in your case they weren't ADA compliant. I don't think we found any accessible ones. They were just regular portable toilets. Playgrounds, for the most part, there was not any accessible equipment, and the playground surfaces were mostly wood chips, and we see this almost all the time. Wood chips are good for a fall zone from a playground equipment, but wood chips are not a means for a route of travel, because with a wheelchair, there's too much drag. If you're in arm braces, there's way too much drag. Or if you're in any kind of mobility-related device for assistance, the traction's not there and it's not firm, hard, and stable. Sidewalks and curb ramps, we focused on portions of Sykes Street, Route 181. We went from Orchard to Diane, and then Fletcher to Wilson, and then the adjoining streets. We also did Fairview. So with the exception of Fairview, most sidewalks were in very poor condition. Curb ramps lacked detectable warning strips. Curb ramps would have, you probably know because you probably walk down there and drive by there, anywhere from 3 to 7 inches abrupt changes in surface from the street level to the sidewalk, so not usable for a wheelchair. The crosswalks lacked striping. In many cases, there was no level landing at the top where there should have been a curb ramp. Where there were curb ramps, there were a few. And in some cases, the curb ramps had a running slope of greater than 8.3%. There are some areas, and we have, again, photographic examples in here, severe deterioration resulting in gaps and heaving and abrupt changes in level surface. Some cases, reduced clear width because of vegetative overgrowth, telephone poles, and some cases, which this might be more of a local ordinance type thing, trash receptacles placed in the sidewalk on trash day. We see this a lot, and many times when Mike and I would be doing our assessments, we do it together, and I've got to go and push all the trash receptacles out of the way so he can use his wheelchair to get through. Or if you're a mother with a baby carriage, you can't, so really they shouldn't be placed on the sidewalk because that forces people to go out into the street, which is a hazard and a safety issue.
What's the solution for that?
It would be a town ordinance of some sort, or the
solution to the property owner to be able to get their trash picked up.
Well, you can put it behind. So if you get the sidewalk.
I have plenty of room to keep it.
Here's your sidewalk. Here's your driveway. Put it right there behind the sidewalk in your driveway. So you can still go and get it because they're going to come out, they're going to roll it out to you, and then they can get it. But not in the sidewalk itself because you can't and again, it could be just an elderly person who's they can't push it out of the way. So.
I do see it a lot.
Yeah, it could be something. I hate to say it. It could be first time's a warning, and then you got to be who's going to police it. But first time's a warning. Maybe someone will complain, and that would be an issue. First time's a warning. Maybe second time's a small fine, third time's a large fine. But that's something you need to discuss and hash out. But that's something we did notice in many locations that was an obstruction. We were in some communities in downtown business areas where you get the little placards you put for, today's lunch and soup of the day is this, but right spoke in the middle of the sidewalk. So, and that's something where.
No, years ago, they had an ordinance where you couldn't put them out.
Yeah, so I mean,
I
that's.
don't know what happened over the years.
Yeah, so again, look at that and see what you have, and that's something, that's something you want to consider. Again, we just bring it up. This is all how you want to proceed with things. And finally, on the sidewalks, one thing which is going to be a big design issue. I know on CDBG side, when you do reconstruction of sidewalks, riverways, a lot of times the driveways, and they come down in. And when you reconstruct, now you're going to make it so that the sidewalks can have a crosslope more than 2%. Well, now you get the sidewalk coming, your driveway coming down, and you could have to cut way back into someone's property when you redo your public ways. It's a big cost thing. So this is in the case here. There are numerous driveways, and especially there's some on 181, and I forget what side street, and in some cases up to 18% cross slopes, which basically come down into your sidewalk. So you're in a wheelchair or any kind of mobility device. That's a very excessive slope, and you're coming nice and level, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of an ice or whatever, and you're going right down. So that's an issue. That's a design issue, and probably an expensive way to resolve, but it's an issue. And finally, we did look at public parking lots in both Three Rivers and Depot Village, and we had just a number of recommended actions on what to do with those as well. So that's the report. One thing to note, I mentioned about the funding. And to reiterate, 521 CMR is triggered by building changes. ADA is not, but the ADA with the self-evaluation and transition plans, they're intended, or we suggest that they're intended to serve as a capital plan for you. The ADA recognizes that you do make improvements, you prioritize, make improvements as his jurisdiction has funds to do so. It's not expected you're going to go and, tomorrow just spend $20 million and make all these changes. No, you have to look, maybe say, well, you know what, we got a little bit money try to put aside, build it with something else. You can apply for money. I mentioned CDBG, Mass Office of Disability funding, to the things which are most significant. We often tell officials that what are your biggest users are buildings in the community or facilities. We have people here tonight talking about recreation areas. You have the library. Library typically uses people, especially people with disabilities. Senior center, town hall. So if there are really things that you could focus on and for somebody to make some significant improvements, we always say look at those ones that are used the most. So I'd say look and report what are things that we can do. Maybe they're in the senior center. I think, there were some things there. It could be hardware, it could be signage. I think there was a door issue with the elevator there, the lift, as I recall, which would make life easier. I know in some senior centers we've been in, they've been, some of the doors have been extremely heavy. I remember in Milford, the bathroom, the building they're in, these bathrooms, is huge, historic building. The doors are probably 8-10 feet tall and like 4 feet wide, and they're wooden, and they had about 25 pounds operating force, and then they just closed. So to put in automatic door openers, and that was a huge benefit to the seniors in that building. So things like that would be easy fixes, but be a huge benefit. And those are something that would be easily fundable on some of these other grant programs, like I mentioned, the CDBG or Mass Office Disability. So the other thing, just to finalize, I've got municipalities I've worked with 5 years ago. I still get calls from them. So both Mike and I are available, email, phone. Typically, if it's a far distance, it's like, well, send us something by email, a couple of photos, a description. We'll get back to, we'll send you information back. But, we still have communities we worked with 5-6 years ago, and they send us stuff. We do a quick look at it, and then either get on the phone to them or send them back. This is what you should do, X, Y, and Z. So we're available to do that, in the future as well. At no cost. We just do it.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. I did have a question about sidewalks. So obviously we have snow, a lot of snow right now, and something that's come up recently with, you know, snow removal and residents being responsible for snow removal, and there's certain, you know, there's a range of how people approach snow removal on their sidewalks, but in our ordinance, it doesn't really define what that is. So is there an ADA, like, because some people
Yeah.
go through and it's
I know.
this
Yeah.
wide.
Yeah.
All your ordinance
Yeah,
says,
there
I
is.
think, is
Okay.
it has to be a shovel width.
Yeah, and that wouldn't make it. So sidewalks are typically, you need a 48-inch wide sidewalk with a 36-inch clear width.
Okay.
So the key is the clear width is 36 inches, and that's why you'd report here on the sidewalks. In many cases, the telephone poles, I think, restricted the clear width. I mean, the sidewalk might have been 48 inches, but the telephone one restricted the clear width down to maybe, I don't know off the top of my head, I'll say maybe 28 inches or 30 inches. So you need a minimum 36-inch clear width. So that should be the width of the plowed or whatever, snow blowed or shoveled area.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. And then I just have one more thing about the newest thing has been website accessibility for municipalities.
Yeah.
Does the plan highlight anything in the?
General, so yeah, there is a, let me just, more of a
IT
cursory reduce, and let me find out where that is. And I think, page 46.
There's a million resources available right now
We-
too that I've been downloading as I see them.
Great. I just know that on the state side, we have been
Okay.
just
So,
inundated with
Yeah.
ADA compliance. With
so
our-
we have a couple pages in general, which you're probably already familiar with. You do have Catalyst, and we've noticed that Catalyst and also Civics Plus are very good with their websites. Mike also has a colleague who's visually impaired, and she went through using JAWS, which is with the job access with speech, to manipulate your site. And she was able to use the website using JAWS.
Wow, I'm shocked. I
She was.
I'm an able-bodied
She-
person.
she
I can't
was.
navigate our website,
Right.
so
Nope.
I
that's
can't use it, and I
amazing.
got good
Yep.
sight.
Maybe I should use it that way.
Yep. Maybe she's an expert. I don't know.
I think
But
she
you know,
must be. She has to be.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had for questions. Is anybody?
But I would still not, I mean, good talk to your provider, to,
Oh,
again,
for
it's constantly being, you know,
I know
changes.
that they're on it.
And I'm not I mean, I can use, I agree, but I'm not big on the, you know, stuff on visible for websites.
Fair enough.
You gotta go after they're done.
Chris, do you want to?
Yeah, just very briefly, I'm Chris Dunphy. I work with John in the Community Development Office. And I just want to say Center for Living and Working has put together a terrific document. You should look at it as a toolkit. You know, whenever anything is being planned at any of your public facilities throughout the town, open the toolkit, see what's there. And as you're doing something else, some of the things that Center for Living and Working has identified can be addressed as well. And long-range plan, you know, again, we have the toolkit. If we're thinking about a project to be funded by CDBG or perhaps running through the Mass Office of Disability, those are two really good grant resources that can address some of the things that were outlined in that report there. You know, not everything has to be addressed right away. You know, start, you know, picking away at things as funding becomes available, as grants become available, and as things are being worked on in relationship to other aspects. The other thing of note that Jim said very early in his presentation is like these places you buy supplies from, you know, just because the company says, ooh, ADA toilet, it doesn't mean that it is. You know, they're selling stuff. So again, he's got the report, he's got the specifications, and it's not only the thing that's purchased itself, it's where and how you position it. So all these things are there for each and every one of your departments to pull open as they're preparing for something. It's right there with examples and how to address it. It's a very great report, and I want to commend Center for Living and Working for presenting it to the town. And John and I stand ready and available to assist this board and any other department that wants help.
I don't want to interrupt Carl, but I want to just quickly make a comment on that, because I think, and you have the cards there. So we finished up Ludlow's plan this past summer. I think it was the biggest plan. It was like 376 pages long. We had a lot of buildings. I felt bad because their ADA commission really diligently trying to make changes and improvements, and they went and they're so proud. We just bought a picnic table at one of the recreation areas, and we did something else, and went to look at it, and it did. They were told it was ADA compliant. It was not. There was only like 26 inches of clear width, not enough for a wheelchair to the table. And then all they did was they took out it was a round one, but took out one of the seats. But then the remaining was the supports for the seats, which didn't allow a wheelchair to go underneath the table. So I'm saying that because if you are looking for something in the future, just send us off to me. We're looking to get this. Doesn't meet it. Because now they were told it was ADA compliant. It wasn't. We gave them a spec, what you need to have. Now they're going to spend another $1,000 to one that is compliant.
Right.
So don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Sorry.
This is just an off-the-wall question. How do you guys get your paycheck? Is it grants or do the towns pay you?
We're hired by municipalities, so all of the above. So in this case, Parma reprograms some CDBG monies. In other municipalities, we've been funded by community compact monies, the one we just finished for Southampton. In other towns, it's been local funds. In other communities, it's been the Mass Office of Disability has an annual program for physical improvements, which you're not eligible for now this plan is done, and for creating the plan itself. So different sources. We've also worked for private entities. I mentioned Palladium Theater in Worcester. That was paid privately. I worked for Hampshire College. I was paid privately from Hampshire College to do their entire campus and their student housing. So different sources that come in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good.
Great.
Will this plan be available on the website digitally?
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because we did provide it. If there are any comments, we typically say, now you just had a chance, you can all look at it before we print out. I think we're in there to do hard copy. Maybe give it a couple weeks post. I would recommend you post on the website, and then a couple weeks or maybe more. And if there are any changes, edits, makes something you may find that we don't know on a building, the name or whatever, we can make those changes before we make the hard copy to then distribute. So I'd post it, a couple of weeks, let us know, and we'll get you the hard copies.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have an approval of a $2,500 donation from the Mullen Family Foundation for fuel assistance. Brad?
Yep, just another donation that came in. I know they previously donated, I think, $5,000. So they followed up and asked if we need more funding, and we have a list, so we definitely accepted that offer. So
Great.
looking for council approval.
Excellent. I will make a motion to approve the $2,500 donation from the Mullen Family Foundation for fuel
Second it.
assistance. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just a
Say
thank
just
you.
a thank you note
Yeah, just a huge thank
on
you.
the family. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And finally, we have the FY27 budget update.
I see, really quick too, Brad, there's something in the packet that's not on the agenda anymore. Is that why?
We pulled it. We
yeah.
pulled one. Yeah.
Just curious.
The agenda was changed.
Was it the old 7D?
Yep.
It was the,
The budget transfer request?
Yes.
That's pulled for now. It'll probably be next meeting. Got it.
One moment, please.
You did.
I'm sorry. Not taking it again. All right, so we're gonna go over the FY27 preliminary budget. We did the same presentation last February, I believe, where it's very high level. I don't get super in the weeds on different counts. It just is where we are to date with a level service budget and where we are with revenue, so. Not pulling up. You guys are all looking at that one anyway, right? So,
yeah, I'm just gonna pull it up on.
I got it.
You did send it to me
you
too,
can
right?
kick to the next one,
Yep.
Ashley. Oh, and I apologize. This is tiny for you guys. I should have made copies. It gets bigger as we go. This is the smallest slide yet. So the column on the left is FY27. What this does, it captures all of our sources of revenue. So if you look at the prior fiscal year, we carry over the levy limit, and then we add in a 2.5% as we're legally allowed. Okay, perfect. And then so the prior year rollover is the 24,900,000 number. And I said last year I need a laser pointer. Yes, thank you. Right here. Then you go down, you add in the 2.5% of 600,000. For new growth, we put in there 200,000 right now, and debt exclusions, which we have outstanding for I think the police station is the biggest one. That gets factored in. That brings us to $26 million of tax revenue. Then we also have to add in our local receipts and our state receipts. Local receipts for the general fund, we've allocated just over $4 million. And then for state receipts total, which is general government and schools, that is $15 million. When you add those two up, you come to $19.5 million. And both of those are recaptured on our next page. But just one thing I'll mention, because this came up last year, is what's included in local receipts. Some high-level things are motor vehicle excise, cannabis, solar pilots, and permit fees. That's the major drivers of local receipts. All right, and then you have FY27 revenue available. So again, the first two here are from the last worksheet. It's 26 million and then the 19 million. If you're to back off our cherry sheet offsets of 151,000 and you add in transfers in, and the transfers in is wastewater treatment plant insurance, that gives our total revenue available of 45.7 million. All right, next slide. And then this is where I talked about before, health insurance. I originally had I think 16 to 20% budget number in here, and then you'll see how this unfortunately came out and how it plays in. So if you take our FY26 total revenue we had available, it was the $44.4 million number. If you add to that the new FY27 revenue, which is the $45.7 million number, that leaves us 1.4 million for new revenue. I'm rounding up just for simple purposes. Okay, when you take off health insurance, which unfortunately I just got notified 2 weeks ago that our insurance premiums are looking at a 35% fiscal year increase. That represents $1.1 million increase in active health insurance.
What justifies? What's their justification?
Yeah. So
is it claims? A lot of claims. What?
Our loss. So that's a big piece of it. Our loss ratio right now, for every dollar the insurance company's taking in, they're spending $1.15. So again, that's just one piece of the overall formula that comes out to give you a percentage. So our trend history right now is not favorable for the market. So we'll talk about other ideas and options we have later on of looking at health insurance, but reality is our loss ratio is running at the negative 15%. We're not going to be advantageous for any outside vendor. No matter what, that number is the number. So if they look at our claim history, that's what they're going to look at and say, you guys are not a credible bunch. And
again, you're not credible. You're paying the bill. You're a risk.
That's what I mean. Yes,
you're a high risk factor.
But yeah, you're a risk factor.
That's how they make their money.
Exactly.
Look, we want this much, and if we're not going to profit from you,
so
we are going to profit from you. Is what they're saying.
That's
one way or the other.
They're going to build that in. Yes.
Yeah.
So a 35% increase to the town equals a what to the users?
Well,
that's crazy.
Figure
Still 35. Well,
it'd be 1 point.
it'd be 25% of.
On top of that,
Yeah.
So figure that's 1.2 for simple math. Add another 300, it would be 1.5. So they would own 300,000 of that.
Divide it
It's
up
a little
amongst
bit lower.
Right, but still, that's a huge increase.
It's a significant
to everybody's
increase.
premiums.
Exactly.
Yes. And that includes the town and the school and everybody, right?
Everyone who's under health insurance.
Holy smokes.
Exactly. And I did run the numbers on it, but my guess is some of our lower paid employees, if they're taking the plan, even if you add in a 2% COLA, let's say, for next year, they're not going to cover the health insurance premium adjustment. So you're actually going to be losing money you're not going to be making as much money next year as you were this fiscal year, even when you factor in the cost of living increase.
I guess the thing is, you need to figure out why we're such at risk, or why we, what's the driving thing that,
I would say the main driver of that, they said, was the loss ratio we're running at right now. It's still in underwriting. I didn't get a firm number. I just got hey, you're trending right now in underwriting is 35% increase, so plan for it.
And obviously, we're doing preventative, blah blah blah. We're doing everything we need to do to try to keep our rates down. And
yeah, we did.
Is it just because people are actually trying to use their insurance and
Probably.
Again, that's the loss ratio shows that we're spending a lot more than they're taking in for every dollar.
Wow.
So more to come on that, but as you can see, I like highlighting this because I think it tells the story of everyone always says, well, you're charging us more for taxes. Where does it go? Before we even talk about giving anyone a raise or looking at putting money into Lavalette Field, anything, we're down to under $300,000 of available money between the town, the schools, Pathfinder.
Well, that's without any increases.
It's not without
That's
single.
just revenue
This is
based.
just-
Just revenue base.
Oh.
Yeah, this is before we even get our assessment for retirement, like, which is
time to start
another,
cutting the budget.
Yep.
yeah. But
I
it's,
mean-
Palmer's not unique in the.
Oh no, I'm
but,
sure.
I mean,
other
35% is
Yeah,
very
the
high.
marketplace I've heard is anywhere from like
20%.
12 to 20 percent is kind of the going rate for everyone they've seen from what I've heard. The other thing too, I want to just note to you guys, I know I mentioned this before, is MMA produced an article last year that pretty much warned everyone that the health insurance cliff is coming and expect sizable increases all the way till 2032. So this isn't just a 1 year anomaly. I think we're going to continue. I hope 35% is a 1 year anomaly.
Yes.
I hope we can bring that down a little bit. But reality is, we're going to be living in this world for another. It's not over next year. It's going to keep coming, and we're going to have hefty health insurance increases.
How do communities sustain?
Well,
They're
they're trying
cutting.
to figure it
Yeah.
out.
They're talking about overrides. They're
Yeah.
talking about reductions in staffing. I mean, these numbers don't lie. You can't afford to operate a municipality with only $300,000 of new growth to take care of everything on.
Yep.
So, and the next slide really brings home where this brings the operating budget. So again, if you look at total revenue, it's the 4.7 number. If you are to look at our general fund requests, so when I sent the original budget memo out to all the departments, I asked for level service, and I asked them to put in a separate section for new initiatives. Because we always want to grow and improve our departments. So I want to know what the new initiatives are. It obviously is a challenge to fund any new initiative when you only have $300,000 of new growth, or new money, I guess I should say, that you can spend across all departments. But general fund number came in for a level service was the $44.7 million number. When you add in additional transfers and special assessments, that's 2.5. That brings your total all expenses to 4.1. If you take the 4.1 minus what we have available for revenue of the 45.7, we're looking at a $1.3 million deficit.
Oh.
And again, we're not the only municipality in this. There's other ones that are in the same exact boat we are. Now, they have different drivers of why they're there. Reality was we were always going to be short. When I ran these preliminary numbers based off of I think it was either, like I said, 16 to 20% health insurance, we were right around a $500,000 shortfall, which again, it's not ideal, but it's much more manageable than a 1.3 number.
And these are just preliminary, obviously, right?
Just
There's nothing solid yet, nothing.
This is only based off of what departments requested to me, adding in the health insurance piece.
And what we know today.
Exactly.
I got it.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
All right, and then we got one last slide. So next steps. So the budget subcommittee is going to meet later this week to review revenue for potential adjustments. When we originally looked at the revenue schedule, we did it back in, I think, either late November or early December. So we only had one true full quarter because most of the state things come in on a quarterly basis. So there may be some adjustment we can make to some of the revenues. I'll be honest with you, I looked at the schedule. I think maybe we have $100,000 to $150,000 that we can add on to that. So that will obviously reduce the deficit, but that's a small piece of a $1.3 million deficit. So again, we'll review that and hopefully we can draw down that number a little bit. Review health insurance options. We can go out to bid. Again, we're a risk for someone to take us on. So I'm not sure how much of a savings that'll really get.
And,
as
and
you guys
again,
know,
I want to know why we're a risk.
Well, so some of the things that are driving the health insurance increase are
GLP-1s.
GLP-1s is a huge one, which is the
The
weight
what?
loss. The GLP-1s, which are like the weight loss
Shots.
injections, so like Wegovy or Ozempic. So that has been I mean, the GIC basically like went
Oh,
bankrupt.
insurance
last year
pays
over it.
for.
They do. They have been. Not they're weaning off of that a little bit, but that has been a huge driver in
Stop eating and exercise and eat proper.
well, there has been a
of the
change.
population is using that?
Well, so that's what I'm trying to
piece of the
explain
drive-
is
just
that
a
this
piece
is
of the
this
driver.
is what
Anyways,
is driving,
what
and then
about
also
people
cost of
don't
employing
have
healthcare
insurance?
professionals. Like the that has been pretty widespread of that these healthcare professionals are negotiating more expensive contracts, and I mean we see that on the town side too, right? We're negotiating contracts with unions. Healthcare professionals are no different, and they are negotiating these bigger contracts, and then somebody has to pay for it, and it's the health insurance ends up paying for it. So those are some of the biggest drivers to healthcare increases.
But that's not a healthcare person asking for more money in my mind, doesn't equate to we're a risk. He's saying
She's
we're
saying
a
in
risk.
general. We don't know why we
That is
are.
in general.
That's
I
in
mean,
general.
That's what I want to
Right,
know.
right.
Why
calling everyone
are
a
we
risk.
considered a risk?
because people are using the health insurance. And I don't know, there's like a lot of HIPAA reasons why we're not going to find out like whether people are going for cancer treatments
You could have
or
large claims.
right, like there's
That's,
just
I mean, you can
everything.
still find out do we have large claims?
We definitely do. 'Cause
Yes.
look, again, we're running at a minus 15
So how do we
ratio.
turn it around?
Well, you can't. You offer insurance and people use it.
Right.
Right. And then in the end, this thing happens, and now everybody's got to pay it.
Right. And it's like even if we did know what that exposure was, say, God forbid somebody was going through like a cancer treatment or something. It's like what we couldn't tell the
No,
employee
I'm
to
not
stop
saying
getting
don't
the
go-
treatment.
I know, I've gone through it, so.
Yes.
You've got to.
Right. You have to do it.
Right.
And your employee,
But-
like the employees, they need to use their
I don't know,
insurance.
medical industry is.
And again, there's plan design changes we could talk about with the insurance advisory committee, but there's small tweaks that they're not gonna make a
Oh, yeah,
sizable
yeah.
reduction on a
Right.
35%.
It's all greed. What it is.
We're at 60-40 now? Where are we right now?
We're at 75-25.
75-25?
Yep.
Wow.
So to go back, so every 1% actually represents 31,575 for the town share. I know I mentioned last meeting, it's just over 41,000. That's for 1% as a whole. But when you take out just the town share that we're paying, that's just round up 32,000. Another option is to continue to review service delivery for efficiencies. I know this got brought up about looking at shared services, different things, which kind of goes to the next bullet point of continue to discuss regionalization efforts for both town and schools. We're going to have to start doing this stuff because, again, all of our neighbors are in the same boat we are. Everyone is short money. I've not heard one town in the last 10 years that has ever said, oh, we have a surplus of money, let's find what we can do with it. Most everyone is running shortfalls and significant shortfalls. Again, not $200,000-$300,000 shortfalls, $1 million shortfalls. That's why they're talking about overrides. It's the last thing I want to propose for Palmer, so I'm not saying
gonna
that
happen.
by any means. But that's what the towns are discussing. And then also at the end of the day, we have to bring forward a balanced budget. So that's going to be significant reductions across the board if we can't make inroads with any insurance changes. And even if we do, we're still going to be short. So going back, like I said before, when I had that 16 to 20% built in, we were still showing $500,000. $500,000 is much more manageable than a $1.3 million number. So more to come. Again, high level today. We'll drill down a little bit more. Maybe there's a few pieces that were level service that we can reduce. But I know we're already running pretty lean as it is. There's not a lot of extra in our budgets across the board. So
That doesn't even include the Pathfinder assessment
no, it
or
doesn't
anything,
include
right?
doesn't include Pathfinder. Doesn't include Hampton County. any of our major drivers, it's not even included. So that's, when you think of that 300,000, that's what we have to cover all the additional expenses across the board.
How close are you to discussing regionalizing Munson and Palmer schools?
So that has to be a recommendation by the school committees. So I looked at a grant last year that would fund a review of that. And what they told me is that they wouldn't look at it if the town submitted it. They wouldn't look at that. They want the school committees to request that.
So how do we get the school committees to request that?
Go to their meeting.
Okay, when's your next meeting?
And my big thing too, and I have always been upfront about this. This is what's difficult about this, right? When I've talked about regionalizing for schools, I've been a big advocate since I came back. I think we need to strengthen our programs. That's the biggest need we have. And if we keep reducing, we already have limited programs. This is not going to help them. But I also don't want people to think when I talk about regionalizing schools that it's to cut money from the schools. It's not. It's to reallocate how you spend money and spend it more efficiently. So I think some people confuse that when you say regionalizing schools is going to save all sorts of money. It's not. You're going to spend the same amount of money as you are right now, but you're going to maybe get a better bang for your buck. That's how you have to look at it, because again, you cut down on administration, you get reimbursed for your transportation. So again, all that factors in. That is money you can keep in the classroom and keep additional programs to be competitive in the marketplace.
I don't know exactly what the process would be to regionalize. I don't know if it's easier said than done.
It's a 3 to 5 year process, and
Oh, yeah. You can't do it overnight.
you can't, but we have to get it going. Like the sooner we get it going to start that conversation, because again, our neighboring schools, they're in the same boat we are. Everyone is struggling. So.
You're reading more and more about it. Like I get the updates every 5 days a week on ASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committees.
Yep.
And you see more and more regions talking about possible.
Exactly.
because of budget
Yeah.
cuts.
And I always go to Munson. You think of like our Munson High School. Just say we utilize that. That is 5-minute drive from our downtown. Like it makes a lot of sense for centralizing the location. We have there's a lot of towns that are in our neighborhood that we could look at. But I was always told the school committees have to request the money available. That was last year for Community Compact Grant. That money, there was never money associated this year.
Nope.
But I also know this is an easy one that Todd Smola would get behind to push for some earmark or something that we could start the conversation with Munson on.
Oh, absolutely. And then, I mean, other regionalization efforts like dispatch.
Dispatch,
On the town side.
Council on Aging,
Yep.
recreation, you name it. We're all DPW. We should look at it. It may not move forward, but it should be. Everything should be reviewed across the board. So I wish I had better news. I was not planning on a 35% health insurance increase.
Brad, last year, weren't they proposing like a 16% increase?
Yep.
And instead you went to deductible instead?
Yep. We dropped it. So
Help us at all?
say that again.
Last year it did.
It saved us last year. It reduced our. I forget what the final number was. Maybe it went down to
It was like 5
or 6
5 or 6%, yeah.
down from the 16 originally.
this
Again,
year
I
we
can
don't
meet
have
with the
that
unions
option.
again and ask that.
That's what I'm confused about, you know, if this worked last year, I can't see why all of a sudden it's 35%.
Our
Yeah,
loss.
because it was a 1-year adjustment. So yeah, so it saved us just last year because we had that savings, but it's kind of like almost like a cliff.
It reset the bar.
Yeah.
But now we're getting hit again on that bar.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
And again, we can request a meeting with the IAC. I wanted to get an outside quote to bring someone in, so it's an apples to apples plan design, which I know we're working behind the scenes on. But I'm also nervous too that how a lot of these companies work is that they give you upfront savings, but then the second year you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So it kind of all shakes out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Are we still working with the same
Broker.
people?
Yeah.
Brokers, whatever you want to call
Yeah. Boyle Group.
them. Is Pathfinder included in our health insurance?
They're on their own.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
They're regional, their own region base for.
They have their own health insurance?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know.
No, and that's causes some confusion as well, and that's why it's not, when you look at our budget increases, because I think this happens a lot, people look at Palmer and say, Palmer Public Schools only got a 2% increase, but Pathfinder got a 7, right? The difference there, it's included in their increase.
Right, they include it in our assessment. So whatever their increases are, they just tack it onto the bill.
So on paper,
They're not on our plan.
correct. No.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm saying, when people look at comparative of what we give Pathfinder,
Right, okay.
their health insurance numbers included in that increase. It's not for Palmer schools.
I thought they were on our own.
No. Nope, they're on their own. Yep. So obviously more to come as this, with this as we move forward. Again, not an ideal situation, but we were here last year, and I always say this, some way July 1st always comes with the new fiscal year.
Yeah.
But
I
there's a
always
lot of
say,
work
I'm
to
like,
do.
these towns have survived like 200 years. We'll survive another one.
Help us with the new
Barely.
plaza there with Jersey Mike's and
Yeah. Well, it'll definitely help with some additional revenues, right? But I mean, not $1 million worth of revenue, unless you're going to get coffee every hour of the day.
Now we're
So,
a grocery store in here. That's what we need.
yeah.
They've looked and I've talked to a few of them, they just didn't feel like there was a market. There was not enough market share.
Give them a nice tax break.
Then that wouldn't help. That still wouldn't help our deficit.
Well, it doesn't help them. Even if you give them that tax break, at some point that dries up. And you look at now, right now, it's in my mind with BJ's opening up in Springfield,
Right down the street.
there's no middle ground to have anymore with another market.
Yep. Yep.
And they run so thin on margins. It's
Right.
tough. It's a tough business.
Right.
Friendly's, is that sold finally?
Friendly's hasn't. I have not heard it's officially sold. I know there's an interested party in it. We're actually meeting for their liquor license. Is it this week? Do you know?
So it's not gonna be Dairy Queen then?
Maybe.
I haven't heard of Dairy Queen. No.
That's not the one I've heard.
Can't listen to anything on Facebook. Come on.
That's good. It's a liquor license, that's not a Dairy.
Yeah,
I said years ago, why didn't Dairy Queen go in?
They make adult Frosties now, so I don't know. Maybe that's-
Well, thank you, Brad.
Yep.
So next we have any subcommittee reports? None. Town managers report.
All right, so we got a few things here. As you guys know, last week we rolled out our first town manager's office newsletter. We encourage everyone to, again, sign up for the link. It is on our news page on the website. We also posted a few times on Facebook. We've gotten a lot of really good reviews so far on that. So we're going to continue that. Again, our goal is to try to do it monthly. It may get pushed back 6 to 8 weeks, but again, our goal is to get that out at least once a month. And I know this was brought up last meeting about how we're going to advertise businesses. I think that's a great resource to highlight new businesses that come in. Again, we can probably link things to their website, but that was kind of another thought I had about how we highlight our new businesses. And you'll see there's a section for new businesses to let us know if they're opening, if we don't know, through the chambers, so we can highlight them. Follow up from something that was noted previously, we received funding through the District Local Technical Assistance Program, DLTA, which is an award from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for 2 pieces. One is for the Planning Department's Palmer Subdivision Rules and Regulations document. I think the last time that was reviewed was early 2000s, so much outdated and much needed. And then the second piece was we received a grant to review shared service with the town of Munson for both recreation and the senior center. So I'm still waiting the official award letter for that one. I did get notification though that we were going to be awarded that. So we'll get working on that sooner rather than later. The town recently sold 6 Barker Street in Three Rivers and 207 Breckenridge Street in Palmer, which were both taken under tax title. So those are both now back on the tax rolls. A couple staff notes. Lori Gaudette is the new treasurer collector. She'll be starting on March 2nd, and she previously worked in Holden, Shrewsbury, and Chicopee, and she comes with over 25 years experience in the treasurer collector's roles. And this one just came in as of Friday. Dave Hansel, who has been with the town for 41 years, is officially retiring at the end of the month. So Dave has been with the Parks Department 41 years now. So he's closing out his time here in Palmer and heading off in retirement. So I just want to, again, congratulate and thank Dave. I've always said I know Some people always question the fields, but I always thought Palmer, no matter what field it was on, always had quality fields from youth all the way to adult. And I think the Parks Department had a big role in that. And especially when you play high school baseball and you travel to see what other different parks have, Palmer was always a place you wanted to play because you knew you were going to get a quality field.
Excellent, thank you.
Awesome.
And then just a reminder, the dog licenses are due before February 28th. You can return your town census with the dog license, and then in addition, the drop box outside of Town Hall. Motor vehicle excise tax bills are due March 9th. And then some events. Even though we don't have a recreation director, we wanted to continue on with some recreational events. So on February 18th, Recreation is sponsoring a youth bowling event where if you're under, I don't know if there's an age limit, but youth, for the first 100 participants, we will cover the bowling shoes. You still have to pay the per lane fee, but the town is going to pick up is it $5 per lane?
$5 per person per game.
Okay. And the town will pick up the shoe expense on that. So again, we'll highlight that more on social media as we get closer. Also have a few events at the Senior Center and Library this month. We encourage everyone to look at the Senior Center monthly newsletter and the library's website. And then Ashley will be hosting our first 250th anniversary meeting for a subgroup that's going to review this on February 26th at 2:30 at the library. Anyone who's interested can join the meeting. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to Ashley directly on that. We'll be looking at changing the times. I know 2:30 is a little bit tough.
So you got beat me to it, because I was going to say.
2:30 is a little bit tough for a lot of our working residents. That we'll look to push that out to 4:30, 5:30, 6 for later PM hours. That gives people more access. So we'll continue to let everyone know those time frames.
Excellent.
And then the last one is the Veterans Service. They have their monthly luncheon is on February 13th from 12 to 1 p.m. And then my sheet cut off. Is that at Ambets?
Yes.
Okay, that is at Ambets.
Excellent, thank you.
All right.
Any miscellaneous correspondence?
Just that we were invited to the Pathfinder budget, right, with the school committee. And then there was something else, was it Miss Ropel?
Riopel?
Riopel, yes,
yeah.
invited us to Old Mill Pond.
Yes. Yes.
And the school committee members all got that email about the Mrs.
Nice.
Yes. Yes. Excellent. Counselors roundtable.
Good.
I'm all set too.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9:12.